This is the Wage and Personnel meeting here at Town Hall on Tuesday, April 26, 2022. Mr. Weeks and Mr. Mitchell will be unable to attend this meeting. The only item on the agenda is new business. Discuss wage and personnel articles in annual and special town meeting warrants and vote to or not to recommend. Ms. Green, can you just bring us up to speed?
Yes, Mr. Chair, Vice Chair. In the annual town meeting, there is one article. It is article number 18, and that is for the outreach position for the Council of Aging. That is a wage and personnel position, but they placed an article in the annual town meeting, hoping that that would get funding. So that would be a recommendation of the wage and personnel for this meeting. Also, in the special town meeting, you will see the grid for the bylaw, Article 212, classification and compensation. And basically what this does is it just deletes sections 11A through 11E in its entirety, and then inserts what you see here included in Article 6, 11A through 11E as printed below. And what this does is it takes the wages that were voted at the October 4th special town meeting and brings them up to the July 1, 2022 new FY23 fiscal year. So you'll see there's some changes in the amounts, especially with the Kiwani with the caretakers. You'll see the changes in that. You will also see changes in the firefighter, the call firefighters, as well as the addition of the grant writer and procurement administrator. That position is just to create the position, but it is not going to be funded or filled until funds are appropriated at a town meeting.
All right. And with, I know that FinCom has been working hard on their recommendations, and I know that there's, right at the moment, 2 different budgets.
Yes,
Can you just kind of give a brief on what they recommended on this?
yes. On the special town meeting articles, the Finance Committee did vote to recommend Article 6, 5-0. And then in the annual town meeting, Article number 18, which was the outreach services position, they voted not to recommend funding for the position.
Which article was that, sorry?
That was Article number 18 in the annual town meeting warrant.
And that was the funding of the outreach?
That was the funding. The Finance Committee voted 5-0 not to recommend funding for that position.
And, I guess, any questions from Ms. Kemet?
So I'm trying to, can we, for Article 18, what would be the annual impact of that?
What the Council on Aging Director had placed as a placeholder on that is approximately $22,000. Let me get the exact amount for you. $22,824. That was for a 19-hour position at approximately $22 an hour.
And that was for the full fiscal year, it would be 22,000?
Yes.
Okay.
That would take, starting from July 1 for the FY23 fiscal year.
So I'm wondering, maybe just food for thought as we get into this, perhaps we could think about prorating this and changing this so that it's through till October, and then taking up in light of FinCom's concerns and, you know, how tight things are.
Yes.
Because then that whittles that down by $11,400 and some odd dollars, and it's not a significant amount, but it's something. So just food for thought on that.
Yeah, that's
Mr. Hickey?
logical
through you,
compromise.
Mr. Vice Chair, the hours of 19 and a half, if the hours were brought down to somewhere between you know, say 12 and 15 hours, that would also make a difference. If I'm not mistaken, the Finance Committee had said, about.
Yes, so
on
what
the
the
lower
Finance
end.
Committee did, because in the warrant, if you notice the language on Article 18, let's see, in the explanation, the Council on Aging Director does note that the hourly rate for the position could be anywhere from $14.50 to $22 an hour. What the Finance Committee did last night was they took the lower amount, which was the $14.50, and they multiplied that by the 19 hours, which came out to be about $14,381. So that's what they deducted from the budget for that position. So they went with the lower end on that position.
And then with our budget, so go ahead.
Oh, let's see, so if we were going from July 1 to October, say 4, let's see, that's 4, 8, 12, so that'd be about 12 weeks. Is that right? So if we did $22 an hour times 15, that's $330 per week, and then times that by 12 weeks, which would bring us from July 1 through October, say 4th, about 12 weeks worth. So it's about $3,960 to fund that position from July 1 to say,
If we go on the lower end.
if you go on the lower end, right. That's, say, $22 hourly rate at 15 hours per week.
Okay,
So that would bring.
that was when you were saying the 22,000.
Right, exactly.
But if it's at 1450 for,
So 1450 times, say, 15, that brings it to 217.50 per week times, say, 12 weeks, so that's $2,610
I
for that position.
I do feel very strongly through you, Mr. Chair, that we need to give some help there. The senior center very seldom asks for, nor do they get, any help or additional funding. And I think what we're seeing in the wake of the pandemic is a lot of these folks that have been at home and isolated are really craving getting out and mixing with their peers. And that's putting an increased pressure on Mary to deliver services. I really think Mary does an outstanding job, and I know you guys share that sentiment. I want to give her the help that she needs. And so I think if we're talking less than $3,000, there has to be somewhere else in this budget that we can find to whittle down instead of taking it off of the backs of our seniors.
Mr. Hickey?
At $14.50 an hour, that's minimum wage. You're not gonna get anybody hired, and if you do hire someone, they're not gonna stay.
They may not have qualifications either.
I'm sorry?
They may not have the qualifications for that particular
Exactly.
position.
You know, the explanation itself is, pretty self-explanatory. I can go over it now, but I would rather wait to our regular meeting. Mary may bring it up, that in the first line of this is wrong, but it's not 31%, it's 41%. And as you both know, I've been discussing this for probably 4 or 5 months now.
Yes.
So, any further discussion, I'd rather wait until we have our other 2 members here at the regular meeting.
I think that's totally fine. So just for clarity's sake, what are we voting on here? What are we discussing here?
So you're voting to recommend or not recommend the Article 212 of the classification and compensation bylaw for the town warrant. And then
Article
in
18.
Article 18, right. And
So we'll be able to recommend it, and then the whole board as a whole will be able to have a
That's
further
what I was
discussion.
trying to-
yes, you could have the
Okay.
further discussion
Trying
on
to
the
figure out how
floor.
to get to where you wanted to go.
Yes, on
Yeah.
the floor of town meeting. And our finance chair is here as well, if you wanted to engage him in discussion regarding that position.
Any questions here, or should we wait until the annual meeting? or the selectmen's meeting?
I think we should wait.
All right, so with that being said, I'm looking for a motion to recommend. Moved by Mr.
Second.
Hickey, second by Ms. Kemet. All in favor? Aye. All right.
Which article, Mr. Vice Chair, was that? Is that for both articles? Okay, so Article 6 of the special town meeting. And voting 3-0 to recommend, and then Article 18 of the annual town meeting, voting 3-0 to recommend.
Wait a minute, I just want to double check on the Article 6.
On the special town meeting,
Okay.
kind of that would be the wage and classification.
Yep, that's fine. I
bylaw.
just wanted to double check before I hitch my wagon to that.
All right, with that being said, that's all we have on wage and personnel. I'm looking for a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
Moved and seconded, all in favor? All right, we are now adjourned at 5:45. Good evening. Today is Tuesday, April 26, 2022 at 6:05 PM. This is the Hanson Board of Selectmen. Please join with me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Please join with me for a moment of silence. Two of our members here in Town Hall has lost their loved ones in life, and please join with me in a moment of silence. Thank you. This week's announcements. Mr. Weeks will be here momentarily. He's just caught up at work tonight. So this week's announcements, special and annual town meeting is scheduled for May 2nd, 2022 at 7:30 PM to be held at the Hanson Middle School Auditorium. A reminder to all Hanson residents that the fourth quarter 2022 real estate and personal property taxes are due on Monday, May 2nd, 2022. Town election is scheduled for Saturday, May 21st, 2022, from 10 a.m. to 5 p.m. at the Hanson Middle School. And we are looking for citizens at large to become members of the newly revitalized Bylaw Review Committee. Volunteer applications may be found on the town website or by calling the Selectmen's office at 781-293-2131. Upcoming meetings. Oh, sure. Nope, not a problem at all. Dollars for Scholars to hold Electronic Recycling Day. Whitman Hanson Dollars for Scholars will be holding a spring electronic recycling day at the former McQuon School in Hanson on Saturday, April 30th from 9 a.m. to 1 p.m. Residents and non-residents can dispose of their unwanted electronic items that may not be able to do in the conventional trash methods. A fee will be assessed, which will support Dollars for Scholars scholarships, award programs. So with that being said,
Mr. Chairman?
Yep.
If I may also, I'd like to announce that the treasurer collector's office will be closed on Friday to allow the employees to attend services for one of the, to the individual that's passed away. So folks looking to make any payments on Friday, they can either do so, they can drop the payments outside in the drop box, or they'll be open again Monday morning.
Great, thank you. And upcoming meetings, as I've mentioned, town meeting on May 2nd, 2022, which there will also be a Board of Selectmen meeting, May 17th, 2022. So with that being said, we have a packed agenda tonight. First thing is Memorial Day Remembrance. Our veteran agent, Mr. White, is here. Do you mind just coming to the podium and just giving us a brief synopsis of this year's celebrations?
Thank you. Good evening to the board. I just wanted to, something I've been working on is to do the Memorial Day Parade this year. And as you know, we haven't done it for the past couple of years due to COVID and having capacity limits and so forth, but I'll restart it up this year. Intended for Monday, May 30th at 9 a.m. would be the start time from Indian Head. And I am going to make some subtle changes, compared to the past. You know, in the past, we stopped at Town Hall. I think I'm gonna keep it rolling until we get to the cemetery. We've had guys on motorcycles fall in the past, and I'm just gonna keep everybody kind of moving. I've reached out to a number of, groups already to participate and so forth. I still have a number to do. I believe I gave you, an invite, by letter. I passed out an invite to State Rep Cutler, and I still have DeCoste and State Senator Brady to pass out invites and so forth, and I still have some groups to meet with. I've met with the American Legion Post in Hanson, Post 226. But it's great to see everybody here, so with the fire chief and senior center, and I see Don Howard, you know, some different people that typically are connected with the Memorial Day Parade, but anyway, that's what I'm gonna be working on and continue to coordinate. So I just wanted to let everybody know, so Monday, May 30th, 9 a.m. from Indian Head. And there are changes. I'm connected to the school because Bob Hayes is gone, and I have a number of school connections that I need. You know, the Indian Head opened up, flag on the pole, that type of stuff, so. But anyway, any questions?
Mr. White, I have one question. Do you need any assistance prior to Memorial Day? Do you need help with painting poles, flowers, or anything like that?
I haven't gone around checking them yet. That would be nice. I would anticipate there'd be probably a couple of veteran memorial poles that would, you know, with the 60-mile-an-hour windstorms that we've had, are probably wind whipped. I ordered graveside flags back in January, still have not received them. Now, I have enough in inventory, but I'm still waiting for a number of flags, even for the flagpole flags. So my intention, I believe I'm gonna get them first week in May, and then from there, I was gonna start coordinating the Veteran Memorial cleanup, and which myself, my wife, and Jim Hickey, Wes Bloss has helped out. We'll get all the veteran memorials cleaned up, but I'll know more when I actually go around and see them.
Great, and when that does come, when you do know, please let us know. I'm sure we'll be more than happy to pitch in.
Yes, we
Thank you.
would, and through you, Mr. Chair. Mr. White, I know a number of our veterans and just citizens are very anxiously awaiting this event, and it means a lot to them. And so I think if you let us know, we could help kind of recruit and take some things off of your shoulders, so that I know you're sort of last man standing, you know, in this, and we appreciate you doing that, but, you know, I think there's a lot of people who would be willing to help, so just let us know what you've got to do, and, when we, you know, our office and all of us can help get you the people that you need to do it.
Thank you. Usually I send out an email to a large group, kind of informing everybody. I call it a sit rep, situation report, and I'll do that again, kind of let everybody know where we're at and what's left to kind of coordinate. It'd be, just to put out to the community, it would really be great if groups got together and put together floats, which is, I know, you know, we have a month, but in the past, maybe a couple of churches would put together a float or two, but it'd be nice to kind of grow that aspect of the parade. So just put that out there.
Great, thank you. Any other questions from the board?
Tim, will the board be in one antique car this year, or will we each have our own?
I don't know. I'm actually, I coordinated the antique cars. The minimum will be 5, maximum 10. But I'm also thinking of the veterans who are having difficulty walking, trying to manage some type of transport for them, and see, maybe I could put some of the veterans who are having difficulty walking, maybe they could go into the Model Ts, so.
All joking aside, Tim, I would gladly give up my seat for a veteran, so I
Thank you.
think that's great that you're doing the antique cars.
Thanks.
If you need antique cars, let me know. I can get you more than you'll need.
Oh, all right. That's good to know.
Perfect. Mr. White, thank you very much, and
All
please
right,
do not
thank you.
hesitate to reach out.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
All right, the next item on the agenda, which is why we have a packed room tonight, the mocked town meeting. I just want to say thank you to everyone that is here tonight, to make sure that our meeting next week goes smoothly. I want to say thank you very much to everyone that's been working behind the scenes, from the town clerk's office, our town moderator, department head, FinCom, our office, our legal counsel. There's a lot that goes on behind the scene, and we don't really see what happens behind the curtain. But just know that it is a lot. So I just want to say thank you very much to everyone that is participating into making this go smoothly. So with that being said, I'm going to acknowledge our town moderator, Mr. Sean Keeley. And Ms. Green, before we start with Mr. Keeley, is there anything to note, such as recommendations from FinCom, budgets, and so on?
So, yes, you have a matrix presented to you that has the most updated recommendations from the Finance Committee. And basically, the recommendations from the Board of Selectmen to place articles on the warrant are the 3-0 that were voted on April 14th, during the April 14th emergency meeting. So a lot of those articles, do need recommendations for that particular article, which the board can do tonight.
Great, thank you. So, Mr. Keeley, I think maybe the best way to go about it, just to make sure that everything goes smooth, is if we can have you read off the article.
Sure.
And then if we do not have a recommendation, I'll just stop and we'll have the board make their recommendation, if that's okay with you, or do you want to go through?
As long as it doesn't take too long.
We literally don't have recommendations on any of our.
So the recommendations are listed in the article, the article's right
So
there.
they're not on the matrix?
They're not on the matrix, but if you want to copy my matrix, you can do that too.
No, that's okay.
What I would suggest, Mr. Chair, is if it's going to be unanimous or no debate, then go ahead and vote it. But if you want to hold it for debate, maybe you could do that after we go through all the articles.
Okay. Perfect. So just for folks at home that may not know why we don't have recommendations just yet, it just was missing information, whether it was the amount or the source for the funding, or just the wording wasn't quite right. So with that being said, Mr. Keeley, do you want to kick us off for our special town meeting?
Sure. And what I'll do tonight is I'll just read the motion and omit the explanation, although I'll read the explanation at the town meeting. Call the special town meeting to order, and Article 1, I move the town vote to transfer $13,841.76 in free cash to pay unpaid bills from the prior fiscal year. And it would be helpful if we could have one selectman designated to second the motions for the clerk.
Sure. Mr. Mitchell, or?
At town meeting, you think he means?
Yeah, at town meeting, yeah.
I'm just signing you up ahead of time.
Sure.
So you can't miss it.
You've got a nice loud voice.
Sounds good.
And Mr. Chair, if I could too, some of
Federer?
the wording on the motions are going to be tweaked. They're being tweaked up until the night of town meeting, but substantively, it's all there.
All right, perfect. So the board's got that?
All right, and on Article 1, I would also note that it requires a 9/10 vote. So. Article 2, I move the town vote to raise and appropriate and/or transfer from free cash $180,000 to fund the fiscal year 2022 snow and ice deficit and to supplement the fiscal year 2022 operating budget for Camp Kiwanee as printed below, or as printed in the informational warrant. And what I'll do at that point, after getting a second, is to ask anyone if they have an objection or would like to debate either one or two. And if somebody does raise an issue, then we'll stop and we'll debate it. Article 3.
We're just gonna stop right there. Mr. Hassett, our town accountant.
Oh, yes. Hey, Todd.
We can't hear you here in the room. Heather, is there a way to get him on the speaker?
Yeah, 1 moment.
have a funding source either.
Okay.
That's probably what we're
Okay, so Mr. Hassett said funding source is not free cash.
So it's raise and appropriate only.
It's not raise and appropriate either. It's
Oh.
gonna be a transfer, but we'll get the specific transfer.
Okay. Very good. Article 3, I move the town vote to transfer $11,000 from free cash to purchase new election equipment. Article 4, I move the town vote to transfer $203,296 from free cash to purchase 0 McQuon Street. Does this require a quantum?
Excuse me, it's a 2/3 because, and this is gonna be reworked because part of the purpose of this article is to effectuate a taking, a friendly taking, don't be worried, because there were some title issues. So, it will trigger a 2/3. And this $203,000 is just fronting money, and it gets reimbursed by the state.
Perfect.
And then I have a question about Article 5. The motion for that is I move the town vote to transfer $203,296 from free cash to purchase 0 McQuon Street. This will only be read if Article 4 does not pass, correct?
So I think what we're gonna do is not transfer the money, I'm gonna have to talk to Todd about this, because we only need one set of $203,000. But the reason why you have competing articles is the grant expires at the end of this fiscal. So if we can't accomplish the taking in this fiscal, we'll have to get the grant for the next fiscal.
Okay,
So we need the same $203,000, we're not doing it twice.
And we've only accounted for it once.
Yeah, good.
So it's only being accounted
Yes, we
for.
need
That's
it.
why if you look at the matrix, it only shows it in Article 4.
Yeah,
So whatever one I guess ends up having, we'll have to see.
we'll have the money.
so if this only, oh, I'm sorry,
Are
please.
we able to get the grant again in 2023 if it expires this year?
We spoke to the folks from the state, and because we're really working and there were legitimate title issues, not the fault of the town, we will likely, I can never say 100%, but we will likely get another grant.
If it doesn't happen this year, will we know that we have the grant before we expend the money?
Yes,
Okay.
yes, for sure.
And my question was, if Article 5 is going to just continue the ability to purchase it, wouldn't the motion be worded differently?
Yeah, we're gonna rework
Okay,
this.
all right, just wanted to make sure.
Before we continue, Mr. Keely, would it be possible just to take a 5-minute recess, just so we can make sure that Todd Hassett can participate?
Sure.
In the appropriate manner? Yeah. So we'll take a 5-minute recess, we'll reconvene at 6:30. Reconvening, after our short break, just to test it out, Mr. Hassett, are you with us?
Yes, sir.
Great, thank you. So, welcome. So, going back to Article 4, 5?
We are now on Article 6, I
It's Article 6, perfect.
Article 6 of the special town meeting, I move the town vote to amend the wage and personnel bylaws, Article 2-12, classification and compensation by deleting sections 11A through 11E in its entirety and inserting the new sections 11A through 11E as printed in the informational warrant. Now, this is always a confusing article, so somebody has to have a good explanation for it. Just be prepared. It doesn't spend any money, though. Article 7. I move the town vote to transfer $40,000 from water surplus to upgrade the supervisory control and data acquisition system, better known as SCADA, or, well, that's what I'm going to say, right? All righty, and that concludes the special town meeting.
Great. Any questions on special town meeting? No? All right.
All right, I'll call the annual town meeting to session.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes. Mr.
how you
Campbell?
doing? It's Joe Campbell. Yes, Mr. Chairman, through you, just a point of order. One of the things I'm always noticing is that we forget at the beginning of town meetings to mention the accounts and the amounts that we have. So I just might want to try to get that out right at the beginning of the, I mean, obviously tonight's the mock, but we'll just put a note that we might want to make sure that we have that ready because somebody's going to ask.
Yeah, thank you very much for the
Balances and
reminder.
accounts.
And Todd always hooks me up as I walk onto the stage with all the information, so.
There you go.
Yeah, it will be ready, Sean.
Awesome, thank you. So I'll call the annual town meeting to order. Article 1, I move the town vote to hear reports of the various town officers, committees, special committees, and act thereon. Is act thereon necessary?
It's not, we're striking that. Some of these are gonna be tweaked.
Sure. Article 2, I move the town vote to authorize the treasurer collector to enter into compensating balance agreements during fiscal year 2023 as permitted by Massachusetts General Laws, Chapter 44, Section 53F. Article 3, I move the town vote to fix the salary and compensation of all paid elected officers of the town as printed in the warrant. I remember when this article was much longer. Article 4, I move the town vote to transfer from free cash $22,800 to install security cameras around the perimeters of town hall property. Article 5 is the
Mr. Campbell?
budget.
Sorry.
Excuse me, we had a vote to not recommend from FinCom, and I know that we're whittling down on non-critical, articles, but, I think, I don't wanna speak for the board, but I think we thought that security cameras around Town Hall were relatively critical, cause we've had some concerns, which I can't really articulate, but, at this point. So, are we in such a fiscal state that, that $22,000 is, we would need to find it from another source if we decide to fund that?
With regard to free cash, yes. If you were to approve, I'll just say, if it's okay, I'll make all the not recommended articles from the FinCom are based upon the fact that if you were to recommend all of these that expend free cash, there isn't enough free cash.
Okay.
So you can pick and choose now and choose some to pass over, which will free up free cash, which will allow you to do that. Well, our concern is that if you approved every one of these articles that has free cash attached to it, there isn't enough free cash to go around. Something has to give. So we understand some of these, it came down to math, just the way the math worked out, because there are some heavy articles. Conservation has two six-figure articles on here that are tough to, it's either get rid of one of those or get rid of, or not recommend one of the smaller amounts. So if there's one that that we can agree ahead of time to pass over or remove, it would free it up.
Okay.
So all these are all are not recommends. In addition to that, what we don't want to do is run free cash down to $1, because what we've had to do this year, we had to use $300,000 to fix the operating budget, to plug a hole in the budget, which conceivably with the addition of what could happen next year, that budget deficit's going to grow. We started out with $1.1 million deficit. We only can believe it's going to grow next year. So we're going to need free cash again next year to fill these budget holes. So if we run it down, we're not sure we're going to have it. So if all of our recommendations are not recommended articles are accepted, it will leave us with about $220,000 worth of free cash, which after consulting with Todd, the town accountant, we believe is the best course forward, because running it down to zero puts us in dire straits next year. It leaves us without a safety net.
Sure. Mr. Sullivan, just for for everyone in the room, what is free cash rate at the moment?
One second.
It's, if if I may.
Mr. Hassett.
It's prior to both town meetings. It's 1 million.
Thank you. Thank you.
And
Ms.
so,
Kemet?
yes, so is there another funding source, that we could use for the town hall security cameras?
So our recommendation is, we understand the importance of it. There's not another funding source, because the other funding source right now would be taxation, and we had to use free cash to plug the budget, so it's not gonna work anyway. Our recommendation is, again, pick one of these articles that you feel is the least important, and I hate to say that because everyone's is important, they all have value, they all have merit. Pick one, pass it over, do not even allow it to hit town meeting floor, and then it'll be there. Then it is there for appropriation. Then we'll be fine. We just need to get rid of one of them.
Okay.
And we should be okay. But again, one of them gets us to 0. We need more of a buffer, that's why we've recommended that. And again, I understand that the security of town hall is important. We're merely saying to push this to October, where we can take a look at these again. These ones that we're not recommending, we think are all valid, we think all should be included at some point, and that October will be the time to reassess these.
All right.
Could I say something?
Ms. Federoff.
Because perhaps in October, we'll have that $203,000 from the purchase of McQuon, because we'll get the land, if my taking goes smoothly, which I hope it will, I've got everything lined up, ready to go after town meeting, we'll have $203,000 to play with.
Great, thank you. So with that being said, I know that Mr. Keeley wanted to kind of move along, so I'm going for right now, I'm gonna put a placeholder for us to go back and just discuss before making a recommendation. Mr. Keeley, take it away.
Sure. Article 5, I move the town vote to determine what sums of money the town will raise and appropriate by taxation, transfer from free cash, transfer from town ambulance funds, water department revenue, water surplus, Title 5, Special Revenue Fund, MWPAT loan repayments, receipts reserved for appropriation, conservation notice of intent fund, overlay surplus, and fund balance reserved for reduction of future excluded debt to defray charges and expenses of the town, including debt and interest, and to provide for a reserve fund for the 2023 fiscal year as printed in the informational warrant. So obviously, this is the budget. This is going to be amended so that, as I understand it, it's going to incorporate the bylaw for setting the limits for revolving funds.
That's exactly right. It's gonna start out with the first motion is gonna be, I move to approve the expenditure limits for the town revolving funds as printed in the informational warrant, and further.
Right.
What Todd says as Todd's gonna, Sean says as Todd is going to amend later on.
Yeah, and just to, for everybody watching out there, we will have a spreadsheet, as always, with the line items for the budget. It will have the FinCom recommendations and the town administrator or the selectmen's recommendations. As we always do, we will be voting on the FinCom recommendations, so that will be the starting point.
And
Mr.
we do have a balanced budget at this point, in the total amount of, if you have a matrix that's incorrect, I think I corrected Lars, and that's, the total amount of the budget will be $32,346,578. From free cash, $264,770. Raise and appropriate, $31,295,416,000. And the other sources column on the matrix would be $786,392.
Very good. So, I'm sure Article 5 will go just that quickly.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to make a motion to recommend Article 5.
Very good.
Okay, any comments? Looking for,
Vote to recommend that?
not Article 5.
Oh,
We placed a vote, 3-0, but we did not recommend.
Okay, I'm just
until the
looking
end
at
to do
this
that,
sheet
right?
here.
so how you tell is the ones we recommended say 5-0 on it, the ones that don't say
Gotcha.
anything.
All right.
Yeah, so if there's no debate on the article, I'll take a recommendation, vote now. but if there's gonna be debate on whether or not what we need to do is right or not, I'm gonna pass over it just to help cut down on time.
I think that's a good point, Mr. Chair, because I think as we get into the budget, we may end up having, the numbers may change.
Right.
So if we vote them in now,
Right. So,
Yeah.
so how about we skip this one for now, and then we will go back for Article 5 and make our recommendations, to Ms. Kemet's point.
Hold Article 5.
Very good. Article 6, I move the town vote to raise and appropriate the following sums of money to operate the Recreation Department during fiscal year 2023, under the provisions of Massachusetts General Laws, Chapter 44, Section 53, F and a half, as printed in the informational warrant.
and
Ms. Kemet?
so obviously further discussion is needed on this.
Yep.
So if we could do that later.
So this is just because,
So, with regard to recreation, I have submitted an amendment, and I don't know if it's made its way to you, to remove the free cash subsidy from this line item, which would allow us to fund the other articles. Removing the free cash subsidy because recreation has had a positive increase in their revenues. I think they're running at about 143% of their revenue targets. So they will finish FY22 with retained earnings. And those retained earnings should be in the amount of, from Todd and I, what we've been estimating, anywhere between $30,000 and $40,000. Those retained earnings can be appropriated at an October town meeting. And it again would leave us this free cash buffer that we desperately need as we move forward with this. So that is our recommendation, is to remove the free cash subsidy. They will have their retained earnings again, because they haven't done a much better job booking, and the revenues are up. So it'll be, but you can't appropriate the revenue from the revolving fund, the enterprise fund, until the budget process is already over. So once it's certified as retained earnings in October, we'll be able to appropriate it. And should at that time there be a foreseen shortfall, you could appropriate the reimbursement of the $203,000, a piece of that towards it.
all right, and that amendment is gonna be printed in the.
I submitted it to Lisa.
Okay. All right, so it'll be in the, okay, perfect, so it's not on the floor. Mr. Malisi from Recreation.
So speaking as just a citizen, but I can't speak for the whole committee because I just got this morning, that's fine. Like if we wanted to do that and appropriate that money in October, if we have the retained earnings, if we can get that 60,000 in October, we can survive with that until October, and then we can
Perfect.
do our budget after that.
Thank you. All right, I'm looking for, this one I think we can make a recommendation. It's pretty straightforward, as Mr.
Make a
Sullivan
motion to recommend Article 6.
Second.
moved and seconded. Any discussion?
Not on this particular one, no.
Well, it would be as amended, right?
As amended.
Yep.
Yeah, is it-
All right. So moved and seconded, all in favor? 4-0. Mr. Keeley.
Thank you. Article 7, I move the town vote to raise and appropriate the following sums of money to operate the transfer station during fiscal year 2023, under the provisions of Massachusetts General Law, Chapter 44, Section 53, F and a half, as printed in the informational warrant. God bless you.
All right. This one, I think there might be some discussion on, so I'll pass for right now. Mr. Keeley, continue on to Article 8.
Article 8, I move the town vote to transfer from free cash $81,529.70 to purchase and install a generator for the library and senior center.
All right.
I'd like to make a motion to recommend Article 8.
Can I interrupt for 1 second? Is this considered a capital expenditure on the matrix?
It probably should be, but I haven't seen the matrix, so I don't know. Todd's about to, I think, chime in.
Yes, this qualifies to be under the town's capital bylaw.
So I'm recommending that we amend this motion to include a second motion that incorporates the capital plan. It would be something along the lines of, I move to approve the town's capital improvement plan as presented in the informational warrant, or something along those lines, right ahead of the, I move to transfer, and then say, and further, I move to transfer.
Okay.
Ms. Kevin?
So if we vote to recommend this, then we're going to be recommending one of the articles that FinCom did not recommend, right? And then we're going to be using $80-some-odd thousand of free cash that we don't have. Now, having said that, I actually proposed this article. I really believe that the senior center and the library needs it. However, what I'm hearing us say, and I mean, I don't know how many cans we could kick down the road till October, but apparently this is one of the cans that we could kick down the road till October, and hopefully if we get this 200,000 is quickly getting whittled down by the way, but, it's like the ever-expanding 200,000. I think by then we may have some clarity on the ability of ARPA and other infrastructure money and that type of thing. So, I guess that's my long-winded way of saying, I think we should vote to pass over this.
And, Mr. Chair, I just want to throw my 2 cents in, and if I understand Kevin correctly, the 264,070, if I wrote that down for free cash, we would have left 264,000.
No, the 264,000 was the amount that we had to put into the operating budget to run the town.
Okay.
We were still running a deficit. If we take that free cash out, we're running the $264,000 deficit. So that free cash is filling a hole in our operating budget, which it will for the foreseeable future, because we don't see an increase in revenue next year, FY24, that would make up for the increase in expenses, right?
Okay, and we'll get further into this as we go along in the night, but for the 81,000, and Mary Collins is here, so I would ask Mary, if the senior center / library did not have a generator because we lost power, because most likely there was a nor'easter and we have a foot of snow, is anyone going to show up at the senior center or the library?
Not presently, no.
So-
No, that wasn't really where I was coming from. I was coming from that being able to be a warming and cooling center regardless of the weather. So if there's, and it isn't just a nor'easter with snow. I mean, I really hate to say it, but if somebody sneezes in Hanson, we lose electricity for 2 to 3 days.
That is true.
So it's true, and it can be fall, summer, it doesn't matter. We've had cars hit poles and we lose electricity, sections will lose it for 2 or 3 days. I joke, but it's the bane of my existence. So it isn't really the nor'easter that I was thinking of. It was really more of a situation where a section of town is out and you've got these folks that are vulnerable that do not have either heat if it's in the cold, or more importantly, and as we're seeing more and more in the summer where the temperatures are rising, they don't have a cooling center. I wanted to be able to know that that library was going to be open. Currently, we use the high school, and we work cooperatively. Jerry and his folks work cooperatively. Chief Thompson and his folks work cooperatively with the school district. But, it also would be nice for people to be able to have the library and for Mary to continue her services and all of that stuff. So that's really why I had put it in. And the reason that I thought that now was a good time for this is because Lisa felt very confident that it was going to be eligible for ARPA or one of the other kind of infrastructure reimbursements.
So, with that being said,
But see, Laura, to your point, if we wait till October, it's not going to get installed until February or March. So we lose the whole winter.
Mr. Sullivan.
I mean, if we're concerned about that, I know, as you mentioned, we have the high school, but town hall actually has a generator now too. So this is a viable center for, warming and cooling. So it's not, the town of Hanson isn't without any options. I understand it's a worthwhile, worthy option, but I think we have a fallback. If something were to happen to the high school, or we don't want to bus people out of town, town hall has got its own generator now, right? Last year we did that, the year before, I think. So it's an option. This building should never go out of power.
So I'll revise my motion. I'll make a motion to pass over Article 8.
Well, I think, yeah, Mr. Kemet has a motion to pass over, so if you want
Oh,
a
all
second.
right, second.
All right, all in favor to pass over? All right, all opposed? Mr. Hickey?
No, I was getting ready to, right.
Through you, Mr. Chair.
Yes.
Ms. Green, it seems to me, at this early moment of the meeting, that there may be quite a few items that we're postponing until October town meeting, so I'm hoping that you and, Ms. Silvera are keeping track of those items for us.
Yes, we
Thank you.
are.
So, all right, so just to recount the vote real quick, all in favor of passing over this article? Okay, 4-0. Okay, I just wanted to make sure. Thank you. All right, Article 9, Mr. Keeley.
Article 9. I move the town vote to transfer from free cash $17,000 to fund promotional exams for the fire department deputy chief and lieutenant.
I make a motion to recommend Article 9.
Second.
Moved and seconded, all in favor? 4-0. Article 10, Mr. Keeley.
Article 10. I move the town vote to transfer from free cash $15,000 to fund the development of a strategic plan.
Ms. Kemet?
This is critical. I know that the town has gone 201 years or 202 years without a, strategic plan, but we can't keep operating this way. It's 15,000, perhaps there's an opportunity somewhere else in the budget to trim, because I do want to try to be, good partners with FinCom and support their recommendations, so can we kind of put a pin in that to discuss later? The reason I say it's critical is because it's really going to drive, a lot of the priorities and funding and grants and, everything, staffing, I mean, you name it, that it's gonna derive from the strategic plan. And right now, we don't have that plan, and so what we find is that a lot of times, we've got folks up at town hall who may have their own vision, and this isn't casting aspersions in anything, but they may have their priorities. As a board, we might have different priorities amongst ourselves. This helps solidify and make sure that you've got a cohesive plan, that you've gotten all the stakeholders together, and that people have agreed, yep, these are our priorities, this is where we want to spend our money. We can't keep operating without this.
All right, so we'll come back and revisit
Okay.
that. Mr. Keeley, Article 11.
Article 11, I move the town vote to transfer from free cash $14,000 to grade private gravel roads to allow fire and law enforcement services safe access.
All right, Article 12.
It's already recommended. Article 12, I move the town vote to transfer from free cash $299,000 to purchase a Ford F-250 pickup truck and a 6-wheel Freightliner dump truck and sander. And this will be amended now to include the matrix.
Exactly, because the other one was passed over, so we'll put it in.
Okay.
And then once again, I'll just invite the town meeting to, debate either one of the two line items, and then we'll take a vote.
Ms. Kemet.
Through you, Mr. Chair, I know we had originally thought we would pass this over, but then Mr. Mitchell, had suggested, and I think rightly so, that we ask our highway supervisor for an explanation or, some kind of a, help in understanding, could this possibly be, deferred until October or not? Because this is a huge amount of money, and actually a lot of the things that we're voting to pass over could be funded if one or both of these things were deferred.
So, Mr. Shea, do you mind just standing up and?
Yeah, these have actually been deferred since 2019 with a change in directors. It was passed over one year, the next year, the last year. The fall, I didn't put it in because of the override. As we stand now, if we don't order these trucks now, we're looking at 2024 to get them. We have one truck that's 18 years old, the other one's 23 years old. So you're looking at catastrophic failure at any point. We've spent a lot of money on maintenance for these vehicles. And if we order them now, we're not gonna get them till fall of 2023. So to keep kicking it down the road, I mean, just.
Mr. Mitchell.
Oh, I'm sorry, good, Laura.
So I'm just, Jamison, if Mr. Shabe, if we were to ask you which of these is in more dire straits and more needed, which would you say?
The larger truck.
Okay.
Yeah.
And,
I had a lot of items that I took off, snow machine for the sidewalks and then a red machine, which I thought were also
Yeah.
very much needed, so.
So if we were to able to, fund the, six-wheel Freightliner, dump truck and sander, at this meeting, and then defer the F-250 to October, is that something that you could live with?
Yeah, it's just gonna push the other one into 2024, which is another couple of years, so.
Okay.
It's just,
Mr. Mitchell?
I was going with the same thing that, you know, the sander, I think, is definitely priority, maybe the pickup truck could wait, so I was going down the same road.
All right. Do you mind just, saying your name and address?
If we defer the $60,000 truck though, we raise the risk of an increased price if we buy it.
yeah,
in bulk.
availability, we might be looking at 2025.
Prices going up.
Great, Mr. Hickey.
And Mr. Chair, just if I can add, Jameson and I had a conversation about this just today, as a matter of fact. And Erin is absolutely right. By the time, and this is why I think the Finance Committee voted 5-0 to do it now. We won't get the truck until later. It'll be more money by the time we go to get the truck. So we keep pushing things off, and it's ended up gonna costing us more money in the end. I mean, I would recommend the article as it stands. Only because, you know, Jameson and I spoke about this exact thing today. And Erin is on key with what she brought to the conversation.
Right, and with FinCom recommending it, I feel comfortable recommending it as well.
Yeah, we got back last fall, and that basically left nothing last year for the highway department, so it's really almost 2 years' worth of, and a couple of small items, but nothing substantial last year.
Yeah, and not that we want
Or
to
the
get,
year before.
not that we want to get into our conversation, but you've got a truck in the shop right now. So you're down a truck, and I know, you know, we have a situation with potholes in town, and they have to refit a truck to do that. So they can't catch up on other things that
Right.
need to be done, so.
So,
All right, I'll make a motion to recommend Article 12.
Second.
moved and seconded, all in favor? 4-0. All right, and just moving forward, if we're gonna have conversation, I'm just gonna ask that we pass over it, just so we can get Mr. Keeley out. So,
Kids are hungry.
all right, Article 13.
Article 13, I move the town transfer from free cash. I think it's $100,000.
It is.
$100,000. For the construction of a park perimeter trail for the base circuit trail relocation onto the former Plymouth County Hospital property as the necessary preliminary step for the reimbursement in that same amount through a state recreational trail program grant.
All right, and this one is already recommended.
Yep.
So, Article 14?
Article 14, I move the town vote to transfer from free cash $25,000 to replenish the conservation fund.
All right, and that's already been recommended?
By us.
By us, but not by FinCom.
Yeah.
So, how about we pass over that for right now, and we'll come back to Article 14.
Article 15, I move the town vote to transfer from free cash $445,740.50 to fund capital improvements for the Whitman-Hanson Regional School District. So, as I typically do, I'll call out each line number and see if anybody wants to discuss them. Now, was it 6 of them are for the high school? Is Whitman paying some of this, or, I didn't know if they figured out how to hand us the bill again.
It does say in the, you know, what the full amount is versus our share.
I'd like to make a motion to recommend Article 15.
Ms. Kemet?
I am fine with all of the, well, first of all, I'm fine with all of the ones that are with the high school, because Whitman's going to likely vote to support them, and we ought to do that as well. And obviously, the boiler water line freeze reimbursement is a reimbursement. I would like to defer the gym floor refinishing. It's $25,000, but it's $25,000 I think we really could use in another way. And we've got a couple of articles that I think that would help, and I don't think waiting until October to fund it is gonna make a big difference.
All right, so for right now, we'll just put this as a pass.
All right.
Article 16, I move the town vote to appropriate or reserve from fiscal year 2023 Community Preservation Fund estimated annual revenues in the amounts recommended by the Community Preservation Committee for committee administrative expenses, community preservation projects, and other expenses in fiscal year 2023, with each item to be considered a separate appropriation.
I move to recommend.
Move to recommend?
Second.
Second, all in favor? 4-0.
Does that motion need tweaking?
Yeah.
Okay.
Article 17.
Article 17, I move the town vote to transfer $28,500 from the Community Preservation Fund, Open Space, Recreation, and undesignated fund balances to fund the replacement of the fence at the Boteri Baseball Field Complex that separates the Little League Field area from the Highway Department complex.
Mr. Hassett?
Yes, the motion needs to be more clear on the source of funds.
Which bucket of community?
It's referencing two sources of funds for $1 amount.
Community Preservation Fund, open space.
It would be recreation, wouldn't it?
They don't have sufficient.
It would likely be the fund balance reserved for open space.
But they didn't have the full 28.
But we can certainly use unreserved, undesignated fund balance, but that may be a safer thing to do.
Todd,
But it's one or the other, it's not both.
Yeah, I spoke with the chair, and I think his impression was they didn't have sufficient funds in the open space, so they were gonna fund from both buckets, the least of.
Okay, well then, I will get you the balance of open space, and if that's their preference, we'll just have to clean up the motion.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Article 18, I move the town vote to fund an outreach for seniors position at the Council on Aging.
Hold.
Okay, we'll talk about that.
You wanna wait to the end or go now?
No, we're holding. Yeah.
Article 19, I move the town vote to fund the conservation agent position from part-time to full-time.
Hold.
Hold.
And again, that motion needs to be tweaked, I believe, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, just.
I'm sorry. Okay, Article 20.
Article 20, I move the town vote to accept Massachusetts General Laws, Chapter 64L, Section 2A, to impose a meals tax at the rate of 0.75% to take effect October 1st, 2022. Article 21, I move the town vote to amend the Town of Hanson bylaws to add a new Article 2-21 to require all elected and appointed boards to videotape and/or audio tape their meetings.
All right, for this one, we need a recommendation. Is there much conversation on this, or does our board?
Well, I have one thing, is videotape and audio tape is like 20-year-old technology, so we should probably just say video record.
Yeah, and also I have a bylaw that was written, so we'll have to reference the warrant, but yeah, I think record is a better.
And just remind me, Kate, that we don't have to have a higher quantum to change the bylaws?
Because no, it's a general, so it's just a majority.
Okay, great.
Mr. Sullivan?
As you can see, the finance committee voted not to recommend this because where are we gonna get the money to buy all these recording devices?
We don't have to buy any of it. So Whitman Hanson Cable Access has cameras up in the copy room, up on the main level.
If every board meets at the same time, we have enough equipment and people from Whitman Hanson Cable Access to videotape all the boards at once.
Miss Arlene Diaz from,
Kevin, we train people how to use the equipment, and we decided to either use video, or if they weren't comfortable with that, we would provide an audio cassette for them to record, but each committee chair can be trained to use the equipment, that there would be enough equipment available.
and then also too, with the audio portion of it, we all, for the most part, have cell phones, and they have a audio captioning device, so I think 1 out of 5 people would have a smartphone to be able to do it.
So having the private volunteer citizen use their own personal equipment to record a board meeting in which they are a volunteer, or be trained up to do double duty as both the chairman and the audio-visual tech, I think is a lot to ask for all these volunteers. So-
Mr. Sullivan, I would kindly disagree with minutes. I use my own personal computer to type up the minutes. I use my own personal computer to read stuff. I don't think this is going above and I think this is what the town needs, because there's a lot of speculation out there where we don't know what's going on these committees, and I think that this enables people to participate more in their town.
I'm not sure you can make a private citizen use their own personal property.
Mr. Chairman.
Ms. Kevin.
Yeah, we're not requiring anybody to use their private, he's just saying, in the absence of the available equipment from Whitman Hanson Cable. And honestly, I'm the person who I put this article forth, and the reason I did it is because I've found personally, when I'm trying to find out what's going on with committees, that the minutes are insufficient. And that if you really want full transparency, and obviously, we can't all attend every single meeting that everybody's having, you can, in the, comfort of your own home, pop up the video, pop up the audio, and a lot of nuances are missed in minutes that you can hear when you're listening to a meeting. I feel very, very strongly that if we're gonna move forward with a more transparent, town government, I hear what you're saying, that it is a minor inconvenience, and hopefully it turns out to be minor, but I think it's very important for us as a town, I really do.
Mr. Campbell.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, thank you for recognizing me. Just as a point as well, from an elected board, to Mr. Sullivan's point, if I came to the town hall, I would never use my personal device. I would actually ask that town council weigh in on that to find out what the legalities are. To Selectman Kevin's point about minutes not being taken, I would say that it would be better to address the people that are lacking the proper note-taking abilities.
No, I'm not saying they're not being taken, Mr. Campbell. I'm saying that they're very vague in nature.
Right, and then to that point, what exactly is the minutes supposed to be an exact replica of what happens, or a generalization of what happens in the meeting?
No, but this increases the transparency of what is being discussed in the meetings.
So with that being said, if there's any more discussion on it, we'll pass over this. But I think, I'm not sure what the board is thinking. Should we hold?
Hold it.
Okay, we'll hold it for now.
And I would just point out, for town meeting, there are going to be disagreements with FinCom and Selectmen, there always are. And that's fine. It's in fact the way it's supposed to work. But, if we could just have each side make a brief statement of your position and then avoid a back and forth, because, I think it, both sides of that issue can be described pretty quickly.
Sure. Thank you.
So Article 22, I move the town vote to amend the general and zoning bylaws of the town of Hanson with gender-neutral wording, specifically deleting the words Board of Selectmen and inserting in its place the words Select Board wherever those words appear. And now I feel horrible for just using the word Selectmen.
I did not propose this article,
Okay.
so
But this does require a 2/3 majority vote. Article 23, I move the town vote to reduce the number of members of the Recreation Commission from 7 members to 5 members.
All right, that has a recommendation.
Article 24, I move the town vote to raise and appropriate or transfer from available funds a sum of money to fund the positions of event coordinator and facilities manager at Camp Kewanee. Do we have a number on that, or?
So I don't know, we need a source and a number.
Mr. Malisi.
Sorry, so if I'm not mistaken, wasn't this supposed to be taken out because we already have those 2 positions there?
I don't know if they're in your budget, or, I don't know.
In our budget line that we have right now for our fiscal 23, we have that set, and we have the payment coming from the recreation director. budget line, so that's where we would put this event coordinator, unless we want to make another budget line in there for it. But I don't think we actually need to do this because it's coming directly out of our budget, and the event coordinator position and the facilities manager position are already approved by wage and personnel on the board. And that's just my understanding, I'm not sure if that's.
So the wage and personnel, that has been updated, the wage and personnel grid and the special town meeting, and presumably, because that's not a funding thing, that will be approved. If you have the money in your budget, depending upon how you approve your budget, you can move, but it depends where town meeting approves it. So if town meeting approves personnel of recreation, that's fine. If it approves director of recreation, then you wouldn't be able to take from that and pay for another position.
Okay, so,
It just depends.
okay, so should we, I don't want to take a
So
time,
then
should we just hold, can we
we
hold
should
this for
probably
more
work-
discussion?
Yep, we can hold this.
Budget.
Yep,
Okay.
thank you.
And if you guys could just work out, I don't know who, if it's going to be passed over, if that motion would come from you guys or Mr. Malisi. I mean, it doesn't matter to me, but. Article 25, I move the town vote to amend Section 6 of the Town of Hanson zoning bylaws by deleting both subsection L, medical marijuana facilities, and subsection M, marijuana establishments in their current forms, combining the two subsections and updating the language accordingly as more particularly described in the bylaw changes on file with the town clerk.
So if I could interject here,
Ms.
Mr. Chair.
Federer?
So that part there, more particularly described, it's gonna say, this is what the motion will read, as printed in a separate handout. And I have a separate handout that I sent to Beth. And we're gonna have to be a little nimble here. So I would ask the board, whomever is making the marijuana motions, make it the same person, because I'm gonna have to sit next to you.
It'll be me.
Oh, Sean, you're doing all the motions?
Yeah, so.
Okay, so we're gonna have to be a little nimble, because if one passes,
Yeah.
it affects where two is placed.
Okay.
You know what I mean? So I have like, it's gonna be a little bit of a, we're gonna take our time and make sure it's right.
Sure.
But we're gonna reference the pages, and everyone's gonna be super clear and understand what we're talking about.
Excellent. That's what we strive for.
Mr. Malisi?
Just a quick question, so are these going, if these pass town meeting, are these going to ballot? No, so once they pass town meeting, they're, so 5, 6, 7, and 8?
Yeah, and that's really an interesting point, right? Because, again, I love talking about marijuana. And it's every town meeting in Hanson.
Make it quick, Kate.
I'll make it quick. But to prohibit marijuana retailers, for example, which we did, we needed a bylaw vote and a ballot question. But to do the converse, you just need a bylaw vote. It's much less restrictive when you're more inclusive, I guess is the right word.
As much as I like that answer, I actually don't like that answer, because I pushed for it to be on the ballot. That's,
You can make a motion to amend, so make anything subject to a ballot, and then
Okay.
that would be a possibility.
okay, thank you.
And I would check in with the town clerk on that before doing
Yeah,
that.
I have to think about that, because when I was getting the citizens petition going, I specifically said that I would like to present it to the ballot so people had enough time to debate it after the past town meeting, so I don't, I'm.
Yeah, think about it and chat with
Yeah,
Beth
I'll
as soon as you can.
Thank you.
And we can talk to Frank.
Article 26, I move the town vote to amend sections.
Hold on for 1 second. Can we just go back to Article 25?
Yep.
We did not make a recommendation because we were hoping for the whole board, but tonight we have to make our recommendations. So looking to the board for a motion.
And this is super easy, you guys, because this is just taking the existing, we're not making substantive changes, we're just combining medical and recreational into a single bylaw, because the marijuana has the same odor if it's medical versus recreational, et cetera, et cetera.
So we're not changing anything that we presently have, right? It's just tidying up.
Cleaning up,
Okay.
DPH doesn't exist anymore for marijuana, all of that stuff.
Okay, so moved.
I have them
Second.
Recommend.
moved, seconded, all in favor? A 4-0? Mr. Hickey?
I raised my hand.
Okay, I just was making sure.
I'm just
Okay.
getting ready.
This one's more tricky.
Okay,
This is-
Mr. Keeley.
Article
one, huh?
26. I move the town vote to amend Section 6 of the Town of Hanson zoning bylaws by allowing for marijuana retailers. Do we need the language in the parentheses?
I was just trying to be so super clear
Okay.
that everyone understood what
If you
I meant.
prefer it, yeah, I'll do that. By allowing for marijuana retailers, retail sale of adult use marijuana to consumers by special permit in the same locations as allowed for other marijuana establishments as more particularly described in the bylaw changes on file.
In the separate handout, yeah.
All right, Ms. Kemet?
So, we've flipped and we've flopped on this, several times, we've revisited this. This, I believe, is Mr. Melissy's, citizens petition, which we said we would help him with, because it needed a little massaging the last time that he brought it, to us. And just to be clear, for those of us that don't know the assessor's map 59, lot 17-3, 17-4, yada, 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 through you, Mr. Chair, to the planning board, chair who is joining us on the phone, could you generally describe what that medical marijuana, what that overlay district is, where that is?
Absolutely, that overlay district, for you, Mr. Chair, to Selectman Kevin's question there, is from the East Bridgewater Hanson Franklin Street intersection, Franklin and, what is that, Central, down along Route 27, all the way to the intersection of, in the Bryanville area, just there at the town line in the Bryanville area. That stretch of Route 27, obviously exclusive of the areas that are prohibited by already established law. And also, I believe that there was a discussion with town council about amending or including language that doubles up on exclusive of the industrial park, or even just mentioning that, because it's also, you cannot have a retail brick and mortar building in the industrial park.
Okay, thank you.
Just to that point, would it be possible to have a map attached to the handout that you're preparing so that people can visualize?
Mr. Campbell?
I don't see a problem with that. I believe that the town planner has the map left over from the last go-around, so I wouldn't see why we wouldn't be able to provide that.
I think that would be helpful.
That'd be great, yeah, that would be very helpful. Thank you.
Absolutely.
Article 27. I move the, did you need to vote?
Can we just grab a recommendation unless it's gonna be discussion?
There's no discussion for me. I was going to vote to refer to town meeting since it's a citizen's petition.
Oh, okay. All right, so,
Even though it's saying proposed by the planning board.
So
It's not
Sorry.
a citizen's petition.
no,
It originated as a citizen petition, that expired, and it's different than what, yeah.
Okay.
all right, so with that being said, is it the will of the board to defer to town meeting? Or do we strongly feel one way or the other?
I'm personally not gonna support the article, so defer to town meeting's fine with me.
All right, so we'll defer,
I'm not supporting it either, so.
all right, we'll defer to town meeting.
Take a vote.
So I'll take a motion to defer.
So moved.
Second.
Moved, seconded, all in favor to defer. 4-0.
I keep forgetting I'm not running this meeting. But, Mr. Malisi, will you be speaking on these articles?
vigorously, just 26, not the other ones.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, just the retail marijuana one, so.
Very good, thank you. Article 27, I move the town vote to amend Section 6 of the Town of Hanson zoning bylaws by adding Hawks Avenue to the list of eligible locations for marijuana establishments, excluding marijuana retailers, as more particularly described in the bylaw changes on the thing.
Through you, Mr. Chair, I'd like to put a pin in this and talk about it.
Okay, so we'll pass?
Yeah.
Okay, for right now. Article 28?
Article 28.
Mr. Shea.
I move the town vote to amend Section 6 of the Town of Hanson zoning bylaws by allowing marijuana delivery operators and marijuana couriers in industrial zones and certain other eligible locations as more particularly described in the bylaw changes on file in the thing.
Usually-
Through you, Mr. Chair, so just to clarify, this is allowing delivery
Yep,
in the same places in town that we currently would allow a grow facility.
that's right. So no brick and mortar facility. It's, you order on the internet. I really do sound like a super old person. I videotape and I go on the internet. Yeah, you order on the internet, pick up from a facility. A courier picks up from a retailer, so that wouldn't apply if the retail fails. Whereas a delivery operator can store marijuana, call it Cape Federoff marijuana if it wants to, and then deliver it to a consumer at their home.
So-
Okay, and again, through you, Mr.
Yep.
Chair, for clarification purposes, if we do not pass this article, it does not mean that marijuana delivery operators are not permitted to deliver to Hanson. It simply means that we will not have anybody here.
Yeah, so that's even trickier. So you can have a courier in, say, Brockton, right down the street. And right now, as it stands, because marijuana retailers are prohibited in Hanson, Hanson residents cannot receive marijuana in their homes via delivery. So there are two ways to accomplish that, apart from this article, which allows the operation, right? You can either take a vote to say we would like delivery from delivery operators outside of the town and notify the CCC of that vote, or if retail passes, then it automatically allows delivery to be able to be received by residents.
If I may,
Yeah.
also with that, I guess just keep in mind that if the people are buying the marijuana from a facility outside of Hanson, Hanson's not benefiting at all from that.
That's what I was
The
trying
people
to
are
say.
still, they're
Yeah.
still delivering to Hanson,
Right.
but Hanson is not benefiting. The retailer they purchased the marijuana with is benefiting.
Right, so Kate, I just want to make sure that, maybe I didn't ask my question clearly. If I'm living in Hanson,
Yep.
and I want to get marijuana delivery from a facility outside of Hanson.
Yep.
Right now, am I able to do that?
No.
Okay, that's what I thought you were just saying.
Yeah.
But if we pass this, that doesn't necessarily change either, only the passing of the retail would.
Yeah, or
Okay.
you could have a different article, and the Cannabis Control Commission is, and since we're being audio recorded, hasn't been giving clear guidance, on whether or not the passage of, wait, what was I gonna say? Oh, what was your question? I lost it, cause I got confused.
I was just trying to draw the line of delineation between at what point and what would trigger being delivery here and not delivery here.
So you can do the third option, which is just to vote on not allowing delivery as an operation, but allowing delivery to be received from places outside of Hanson. You can make a vote, but the CCC is not, they haven't provided any clear guidance as to whether or not that's a town meeting vote or a Board of Selectmen vote. And it's been done differently across the state by different communities. So, that's left to your discretion.
Mr. Hickey?
So, thank you, Mr. Chair. So, Kate, basically, to make it easier, retail has to be passed so that the delivery can be passed.
Not necessarily. You don't need one. If retail passes, delivery is allowed.
Right.
Right?
So, but now you're saying that they're not that clear, that maybe it doesn't, even though this article passes at town meeting, because the previous article did not,
Yep.
then we could still have a problem.
Yep.
So the bottom line is, it'll make everything easier if both articles pass.
No, I'm never gonna take that position. So you have to decide what's right for Hanson, right? So if retail fails and everyone's super upset, they really wanna get delivery in their home. Kevin's desperate, he wants. Just joking, for the record.
I'm sure the Navy would love to hear about it.
Then you can do a separate vote that just says, I'm gonna allow delivery to be occur, just like I allow my Amazon trucks, I'm gonna allow delivery to occur in Hanson. And you can do that at a separate, and you
But-
can be conservative and do it at a town meeting and do that in the fall.
Yes.
And I know you just made that statement.
Yeah.
But Lisa said, if we have delivery and it's not from Hanson because we don't have retail, we're not making the money.
No money for Hanson, that's right, for
So
sure.
would it be best where we, just referred to town meeting, would it be best for us to refer to town meeting on this?
I don't wanna tell you how to vote.
Mr.
Well, I'm asking the board then.
I have a, through you, Mr. Chair.
Yep.
So if a company comes in here and wants to set up delivery, they're gonna pay taxes in the town of Hanson. So I
Yes,
disagree, the
yes.
town's gonna not make any money.
No, but
We're
that's
not.
not what he's saying. He's saying if, ABC Company in Whitman,
Yep.
they deliver into the town of
Right.
Hanson, you're not gonna get property
Right.
taxes.
Yeah, no, I understand that.
All that stuff.
But
with
if we
sales
don't
tax.
support this, I'm saying companies can't come in, start their own delivery. They
Yeah.
could be in Hanson, we'll still get excise tax, property tax.
Yeah, if this
So that's
passes,
what-
you'll get the property
Yeah,
tax.
and that's gonna allow people to come in from out of town, and it's gonna allow establishments to be in town.
Yeah, and you'll have a host community agreement as well,
Right.
which would generate income. And this is another piece, which another state agency is still getting back to me a month and a half later. DLS, has been giving conflicting advice as to whether or not the sales tax applies to delivery operators, right? Because this is a retail sales, this is me selling to a consumer. And so that's a retail sales, the same as if I bought it at a store, right? But 64N Section 3, which is the sales tax section, that specifically doesn't call out marijuana retail sales, it calls sales by a marijuana retailer, because when that statute was written, delivery wasn't yet allowed. And so I reached out to DLS to say, well, this is retail sales, it's just by a different purveyor, are we still going to get those taxes? And I'm waiting, and I'm gonna press them, and I hope to have that information by town meeting on Monday.
How long ago did you ask the question?
A month and a half ago.
Hmm.
And it got pushed to a couple.
I've been waiting for Desi to call me back for 3 months.
But if this is not supported, then you're not gonna get zero, you're gonna get zero anyway.
But we'll have a community host agreement, so we'll still have, similar to what we've set up with, Impressed LLC for the 3%, blah, 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 you know, for the.
3% of gross sales,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
If you get the sales tax, though, you get 6%.
Yes, I agree, but the point is, we're getting something.
Yeah, and that's true for the operators, I wanna be super clear, because it's very complicated. The couriers aren't gonna generate much money for you, because here's the reason why. They're not taking possession of the marijuana and selling it as their own. They just do the, I don't know how much it is, $10 fee, $15 fee, $50 fee, I don't know what it is, to do the transport. Whereas the delivery operator takes possession of the marijuana, they can relabel it, call it their own, and then sell it as a retail sale. So that's where the big money is gonna come in, or bigger money, I should say, I don't wanna oversell it.
I'd like to make a motion to support Article 28.
Second.
Moved and seconded, all in favor? 4-0. Mr. Keeley?
That was on Article 28?
Yes, sir.
Okay, so 5-0. I just want to go back to something earlier. Kate, on Article 26, all the other amendments to Section 6 required 2/3 vote. Does this not?
28 requires 2/3.
No, but Article 26.
Yeah, all those zoning articles require.
Okay, it just wasn't noted, so,
Oh, yeah, 2/3 for all of those.
okay, very good. So, 28. Article 29, I move the town vote to authorize the Board of Selectmen to enter into a maximum 20-year lease of a 3.8 acre portion of town-owned property, including the warehouse-style buildings thereon, located at 100 Hawks Avenue, depicted as a portion of Lot 1 on a plan entitled Plan of Land Hawks Avenue in Hanson, Mass., August 24th, 2018, prepared for GEI Consultants, 400 Unicorn Park, Woburn, Massachusetts, 01801 by Land Planning Incorporated, 1115 Main Street, Hanson, Mass. 02341, job number P-2992, on file with the town clerk's office for the purposes of commercial and/or industrial use.
And I'm gonna strike all that, make your life easier.
Thank you.
Hold, please.
Yeah, I'd like to hold too.
And Article 30, I'll read for the purposes of tonight, but my plan is to have Mr. Cohen make this motion since it's his, is Mr. Cohen here?
No.
No, okay. So, but Article 30, Mr. Cohen would move the town vote to amend the current recall, Chapter 93 of the Acts of 2019 as printed in the informational warrant. And he'll be able to give an explanation. But my purpose for doing that, just for everybody out there, is that the plan was always for me to read the articles put forward by town officers, but citizens petitions, I would prefer that they speak on their own.
And this has been a practice that's been ongoing.
That's a
and it's
long-standing
not-
practice.
Yep.
Yeah.
So with that being said, I'm looking for a motion to defer to town meeting,
So, who-
Second.
right? Because I think that's what we did at the last citizens petition.
Well, right, but you're looking for a motion, and then somebody would say, I'll make a motion
Okay.
to
All
defer,
right.
you know what I mean?
Yep,
You're kind
sure,
of reading the
sure.
witness, but
Yeah,
yeah.
go ahead.
Yeah, I make a motion to defer to town meeting.
Second.
Okay, perfect.
And with that, I bid you adieu.
Okay, thanks, but you got a second, but then we didn't.
It's moved,
Yeah.
seconded, all in favor? 4-0, thank you.
Sean gets to go?
John gets to go,
What about all the holes?
so.
Look, I lost my race for selectmen. You don't.
All right, and then, if anyone, feel free to go. If your article was held and you kind of want to give some insight, feel free to stay. Thank you very much for everyone that's come out so far. Yep, let me just, yep, so, I just want to take care of Mary Collins real quick.
Yeah.
And then we'll take care of, Mr.
We're going out of order?
Thank you.
Yep. So,
Oh, okay.
all right. So for right now, we're just gonna take a break from town meeting, just to get people in and out. The next thing on the agenda, is Old Colony Elder Services, OCES nominee vote, Ms. Collins, who is here, and, it's great to have you with us tonight. So, with that being said, Ms. Green, do you mind just prepping us on the OCES?
Ms. Collins has been nominated by the Old Colony Elder Services to serve on their board, is that correct? Serve on their board, and she is looking for the Board of Selectmen, this evening to, vote to, nominate her to the board.
So moved.
Second,
Moved and seconded, all in favor?
and congratulations, what an honor, that's quite an honor. Yep.
Yes, thank you very
Well
much.
deserved.
Wow.
So, excellent. And then just to move people in and out real quick, I'm gonna go down to, the nuisance dog hearing update. At our last meeting, we had a hearing. Mr. Joe Kenny, is here with us. Do you mind just coming to the podium real quick? All right, Ms. Green, do you mind just providing us with a little bit of an update?
Yes, so, we had sent a letter to Mr. Pashkoff, basically outlining all the directives that the board had put in place for the dog. One of them was he was to register the dog immediately with the town clerk, and he was to, strengthen and install, fencing that would not allow the dog to escape the property. The dog would be restrained humanely anytime it was outside the property through a tethered type of, mechanism. And anytime the dog is, outside, again, he is basically confined to his space. Basically, to date, I understand he has not registered that dog. I have confirmed that with the town clerk, and I believe that our animal control officer has been out to the property and has observed that there is work on the fencing, that he has put in more secure fencing. And the dog is, he's kind of being,
Yeah,
he's
so
on
the
a,
dog's,
some type of
the
a cable.
dog's tethered within
Tethered.
a fenced-in area. So we recommended a 6-foot fence, and he replaced like the shorter fence in the back with 6-foot panels, as well as is now tethering the dog so that it doesn't get loose. And there's 2 dogs on the property, so I think the dog that was actually in the hearing is the one that's registered. It's the second dog that's not registered as of right now.
I'm sorry, is the second dog the female?
Yeah.
Okay, okay. So what are we able to do under our bylaws to compel somebody to register a dog?
We can place a fee, a penalty on it under our reinforcement bylaw.
We've sent a letter already saying, have we sent correspondence? I don't know.
We have not. As of, after this evening with this update, tomorrow morning, I'll send a letter out.
Wait, just to be clear, we sent a follow-up letter from our last meeting.
Oh, yes, yes, it
but
outlined,
regarding the
it
registration.
outlined,
And
yes,
it
we sent
outlined-
it by registered mail and regular mail, and he did receive it, because we received the card back. And it did outline clearly the directives that the board put in place for him.
I want to thank Mr. Kenny for following up.
Yes,
I know
thank
this
you.
was a
Absolutely.
touchy
Thanks, Joe.
situation, and I felt conflicted, because I put myself in the shoes of the people whose dog was attacked, but on the other hand, it seemed like that gentleman really did want to try to do the right thing.
Yeah.
So what I would like to do is, if, I'd like to make a motion that we send a letter to, the dog owner, telling him that he must register the dog within a week's time, and that if he doesn't, we're going to start, charging him.
All right, so that's a motion?
Yep.
All right, do I have a second?
I'd like to amend that to, he's had a month already, to whatever maximum fines he owes as of now.
Yes, so there is a standard fine for not registering your dog in town.
How do we know when he had the dog first? Yeah.
That's the difficult thing.
That's why I kind of thought, like, if we start today, we're saying, okay, because we didn't, in our last hearing, we did not tell him at that time that he needed to have a time frame that we said, you should register your dog. We were kind of loose about it.
I think if we look back at the tapes, since we are videotaped.
Yes.
And recorded, that it will tell you that, it was discussed.
No, we did discuss, but did we say within a week or like immediately?
So, yes, the letter I
I
sent
think
out
a
was said
month is long
immediately.
enough.
The letter we said, sent to him, did say, register the dog immediately.
Okay,
That
so
was
then
the
I
first
agree
directive.
with Mr.
Well, I
Yeah.
would defer to Mr. Keeney, because he's, Kenny, sorry. Because you'll be the enforcement officer on this, and I think that it's very important to allow you to have the discretion that you think is appropriate. And that's my 2 cents on that.
So in general, it's a $25 fine, I think.
Per day?
No,
Oh.
it's a general fine, so usually it's collected through the town clerk's office when they come in to register their dog, or they end up in court. So they, if they don't pay it, they end up going to a court hearing, and eventually it'll end up with some kind of a court fines or penalties.
So what I think I'm hearing you say is we should alert the town clerk to the fact that this failure has happened, and she's got a procedure
Yeah,
that she
so
follows.
there's usually a procedure that's followed
Okay.
through the town clerk's office for the unregistered dogs.
Two
Mr. Hickey?
questions. Aaron, you're gonna love this. Can we make the $25 fine per day? And if so, does it go into free cash?
As far as I know, I don't think we can do it per day. I think it's just a $25 fine. I don't know, though.
Okay. You know I was joking, but.
Yeah. I figured that.
Ms. Diaz?
Because I thought you said the dog that was in the incident was registered, it was the female that wasn't involved in the
Yes.
incident that's not registered.
Right,
Yes,
yep.
So,
but all dogs have to be registered anyway.
Yeah, that's why I'd go with the regular standard town procedure
Yep.
through the town clerk.
And the letter said it.
Yeah,
I think
so
we can
you'll touch base
move
with
on.
Beth and get that popping?
Yes, I did forward a copy. I did present a copy of the letter to the town clerk as well, so she has a copy of the letter that states your dog must immediately be licensed with the town. please contact the town clerk to license the dog. So that was the number one directive on that letter.
Great, thank you. And then, any other questions, or, no?
No, but I just thank Mr. Kenny for his follow-up.
Yes, thank you very much, Mr. Kenny.
Thank you, guys.
So with that being said, I just want to try to finish up our town meeting business, so Ms. Federoff can go home to her kids. So, with that being said, going back to the top here, we have Article 5, which is the overall budget, which I think will make sense to visit last. Number 7 was the transfer station. So with that being said, Mr. Gilamato, do you mind coming to the podium?
Got cut up here a little bit, from the last meeting there, so, the article is here, town vote to raise appropriate and to transfer from available funds some money to operate transfer station for fiscal year 2023 under provision SGL, chapter 44, section 53, F1 half, as printed below, or take any action thereof.
So one, thank you for kicking it off.
Yeah.
But just for folks in the room, they are not able to hear. But, I guess we kind of held this just because at our last meeting, there was some questions on whether or not the transfer station was, running on a balanced budget, and there was questions on that, and there was some follow-up items. So I guess my question is there a sheet that you could provide to us with, like a business plan?
No, I didn't do a sheet as far as a business plan.
Okay.
I just gave the numbers that, Todd had provided me and what we had here. Reading of the article, the program receipts, that's what we, first concerned of. Program receipts of $227,000, excuse me. And, just going by the article was written, looking for, taxation, free cash, $165,000 to balance the budget, put the budget in balance.
So
We have,
I guess my question right now is this, Mr. Amato. Do you foresee in the next couple of fiscal years, us using free cash to continue to sustain the operations at the transfer station with the adjusted, stickers and bag fees?
Yes, in talking to Todd about these stickers, like he can't, project what the sticker's gonna be. He says more than likely, I don't think he's on anymore, more than likely there'll be an article in October to straighten things out once we start selling the stickers. And how he presents the budget, as far as I'm concerned, what I heard, I'm telling the truth here, as far as how he puts
Mr.
the
Amato,
thing.
could you
Excuse me,
just
I'm
speak
sorry.
up, just?
Yeah. Yeah.
Maybe
So-
pull that microphone, Gil,
Yeah.
just closer, a little closer.
Well, yeah, if you could just project a little bit more, that'd be great.
Yeah, so, the board did vote the 2-year, sticker fee of $100. So we'll work, with that and the, incoming pager trophies. We've got, like I say, 227,000 and asking, for 165,000 out of free cash. I think we can lower that in the upcoming year, with the new stickers coming out. And, to balance this, I think it's gonna take, which we have to, project and try to really do, it's gonna take 3 years actually to really balance this out.
So you're saying that's gonna take 3 years to
Yes,
have
that's with using the
a
2-year.
budget that's
yeah.
not using free cash?
Right. I'm gonna project 3 years. I mean, it sounds almost impossible, but as looking at other towns that are doing pay-as-you-throw, I mean, they're hitting the fees really hard. And, breaking this down, I think, really controlling, the budget as far as, raising fees. We've raised the fees on the trip tickets. We've raised those fees. And, we've raised the fees, let's see, I have a sheet here.
So.
I was totally unprepared the last meetings, but, really caught up on this meeting. So I think, using the free cash and, really, the bookkeeping on the pay-as-you-throw, that was developed by the past town administrator, so everybody's kind of.
Mr. Amato, I guess I'm just gonna stop right there.
Yeah.
Just because we went through this last time.
Right.
I asked for for a plan.
Yeah.
A sheet to be able to break everything down instead of just throwing numbers around.
Oh.
And we don't have that tonight.
Okay.
So with that being said, I was asking for a business plan at our last meeting to show how we're gonna be operating the budget, the transfer station at minimal free cash.
Similar to what we got from recreation.
Similar to what we got
Okay.
from recreation, and I don't have that, and I don't support just continuing to use free cash to operate the transfer station. A few years ago, I went to the first hearing about the current stickers, and I've made some recommendations and whatnot, but it just doesn't seem like there is the will from the Board of Health to charge what it costs to operate the transfer station. So I guess I'm gonna open it up to the rest of the board. Mr. Hickey?
I'd like to ask a question of the Finance Committee. Finance Committee voted 3-2 to recommend the $165,000 to supplement the transfer.
So we looked at it, it was a split vote, as you can see, 3-2. We looked at it as we're tackling one problem at a time. Right now, recreation is on a positive slope. They're trending in the right direction, where we believe that they will no longer need a free cash subsidy if they maintain their current operations as such, with the revenues the way they are. If they can keep it going, they'll be free and clear of it. We've made several requests over the years. Every year we bring this up. Every year we suggest cutting the subsidy, and every year town meeting overwhelmingly stomps us down. Every year we ask the Board of Health for a solution, much like you have. We've suggested solutions. We've narrowed it down to a dollar figure for closing it additional days. It never happens. So we're looking at taking this over the next fiscal year as our project and our focus to really make some solutions. Because as you can see, I mean, the free cash increased exponentially. And it's just, there are no retained earnings anymore. We're willing to give it, 6 months to see how much these $100 tickets affect revenue. And if that's the case, if we look at, but it needs someone to follow through it. We've made several requests, and it's the same story every year, and it just keeps getting worse and worse until our hope is that one day town meeting gets fed up enough with it, and when we say, okay, we're at 165 this year, so what's it next year? 200?
Well, that's my next question to you, Kevin, and I'm sure, and if I put you on the spot, I apologize, but it's 165 this year. What was it last year?
It was 118.
What was it the year before? Okay,
Are we trending upwards?
Yeah,
Right.
It's increasing.
So, and you brought recreation into it where they're decreasing down.
Correct.
Every year, the transfer station keeps going up and up and up.
Correct.
So maybe this is the year.
So we would fully support that, I think. In this case, we were looking to make as many. Every year at a certain point, town meeting becomes a fight over something that's just spinning our wheels. And it always ends up being the transfer station. We're very accepting of the fact that you all seem open to our recreation amendment where we're removing the free cash. Mr. Malisi seemed like he was on board, so we're hoping we've got the recreation problem solved, so now it's gonna be time to focus on this. And you're right, 165, we only use 250 to plug the operational budget of free cash. So it's almost, of a $32 million budget, we needed 245,000 of free cash. They're gonna quickly approach that, and there's no ending in sight. Retained earnings have dropped off, they're zero. And the free cash subsidy is.
I'm sorry, Mr. Chair, I have one more question. Kevin, I can look this up, but it was a 3-2 vote. I'd like to know who voted against the subsidy.
So, I don't know how that matters.
remember that.
Really? I mean, I kinda just don't.
Well, only because you're not recorded and it won't come out in the minutes until after the town meeting.
I'll put it in the minutes.
Okay.
I don't see what that has to do with the.
Well, every time we take a vote, it's recorded.
Well, no, but I think what he's saying is philosophically, they all agreed that we shouldn't keep doing this, but some were more resigned to the fact that, look, is this the hill I want to die on? No, not at town meeting, this
Okay.
isn't the hill.
There's too many hot
Yeah.
button issues right
Yeah.
now. This wasn't one that we were all.
Okay, and later on tonight, I'll bring up my argument, and it's almost like a three-phase argument, one of them being the transfer station, when we get to Article 18, that we held for now. But you'll see when I talk about it, how it all intertwines.
Ms. Kemet?
Yes, so, through you, Mr. Chair, to Mr. Sullivan, I'm wondering, the amount that we've got here, the 165,000, is that for the entire fiscal year? So, again, it seems to me as though we're in Groundhog Day here, because every year we're having this similar conversation, just plugging in different numbers. And I want to try to compel the Board of Health, who are a separately elected board, so we are, kind of restricted as far as what we can do, and as it should be. But I'd like to try to encourage them to look at what other things they can do to bring that deficit down. So I'm wondering whether it might be incentive for us to say, we'll fund half of that deficit, and we will revisit it in October, but we need a business plan in order to get the remainder of that money. We need a business plan to show us how you're going to reduce that deficit going forward.
I'm not sure if you recall, Laura, a few years ago, we did just that. The Finance Committee recommended a 6-month funding, reduce the free cash, and going back to it in October, and within 2 seconds, town meeting overturned it and funded it the full amount. It just, at that time, it was a much smaller free cash amount. We would absolutely support any sort of reduction in the use of free cash to run these enterprise funds. As you all are well aware, the whole purpose of the enterprise fund is it's supposed to be self-sustaining. These programs are supposed to be self-sustaining. Otherwise, the transfer station would just be aligned in our budget, and then that would be the end of it, in our general fund budget. But the way it's set up, it's supposed to be a self-sustaining entity. Water, I mean, they have a monopoly, but they are a self-sustaining entity. Recreation, on its way to being a self-sustaining entity, hopefully. But the transfer station, just with these numbers and trends, will not get there without some drastic changes.
Mr. Mitchell?
Mr. Chairman, I think that after everything being said, I think that it starts with us. I think that the first thing we need to do is not support this, so we can start and force the Board of Health to start getting on track.
I agree.
Town meeting is town meeting. We can't control that, what happens at town meeting, but based on everything, I've been here 7.5 years, and it's the same old story, and it's not gonna change. So, me personally, I'm like to make a motion not to support, is it Article 7? I should probably put my glasses on so I can see.
Just to clarify, like, they've got a deficit, and I 100% am with you, 100%, because I'm looking at all the things that we're not doing, because the Board of Health isn't finding a way to address this issue, right? We can't do security cameras. We might not be able to do a strategic plan, but yet we're funding $165,000, and I'm not seeing changes in schedules, reductions in hours, or any of a meaningful increase in fees that's gonna make up that difference. So anyways,
But our recommendation is probably, it could not even affect it. Town meeting, like Kevin said, every year we go to town meeting, and people say, yeah, but
I do have a suggestion.
Yes.
If that's the way you're inclined, I believe we can do it. We can change the informational warrant to include a different recommendation.
Yeah.
And that recommendation could say 0 free cash.
And you just move it without the free cash, and that's how you move it, and if someone wanted to add the free
So,
cash,
I believe if Ms. Green can rewrite.
I'd be fine with that.
Rewrite the article, and, if all the verbiage makes sense, I would support reopening and changing our recommendation as well. I think the rest of the FinCom would as well.
Ms. Kemet?
So can you play this out for me? First of all, can I just say this is like a sauna in here, and I don't mean that in a good way. But also, I'm wondering, let's play this out. If we say nothing, because I do want to go worst case scenario, and I want to know what the consequences of this vote are going to be. If we say no money, what happens?
Then they run until they run, so, and nothing changes at the October meeting, and they're still running the way, they run out of money, and then you have to deal with those consequences. So there may be layoffs, there may be other ways to deal with it, but you can't obviously pay the people who work there without sufficient funds. So that would be the result. Or they make operational changes, they close the transfer station or make other cost-saving measures, but without that funding, they're operating at a deficit and they have to readjust.
And it would just be the removal of the free cash, which would still leave them $227,000 to operate.
So they can
At
operate.
what
It's
point
not
would
gonna
they
close
run
down.
out of cash running operationally the way that they're running now if they don't get any additional funding?
So, I mean, the total budgeted revenue is almost $400,000. So if you took away 165, that's somewhere between what?
3/4 of a year?
Two-thirds?
Two-thirds.
Two-thirds and three-quarters, somewhere around there.
All right, so,
In theory.
so in October, we would have sufficient time if we were to, okay.
So, I mean, and that's what the FinCom did with Article 6. We presented our amendment to Article 6, submitted to the town administrator. They have it for the informational warrant, so they can include it in the informational warrant and cut out the free cash.
That's the way
Same
I'd
can
like
be
to
done
do
with
it.
Article 7.
I'm fine with that.
Mr. Amato,
Can I say something? I know I've been around 100 years, but this is the first time in 30 years I've been actually hands-on involved with the budget for the Board of Health. And talking to Todd and trying to, get things squared away here, the board has come up with this 2-year sticker. And to try to generate more revenue, the bulky items, materials, all those fees have been raised and everything. So the board is heading in the right direction.
So, Mr. Amato, how many years did you serve on the Board of Health prior to becoming the department head?
30-something years, but we never dealt with budgets all the time.
But you.
And then
but
I had a
no,
6-year break and then I
as-
came back and
As,
then,
as the board, you set
Yeah.
the budget.
well, we
And
used
for
the budget.
30
but-
years,
Yeah.
I
mean-
so my question for you, Mr. Amato, is the stickers, the current stickers that we have right now run out at the fiscal year.
July 1st.
So right now, we have the opportunity to work, the Board of Health has the
Yeah.
opportunity to work until the end of June to come up with a better policy before you issue your new stickers to help sustain and make a balanced budget. So, so I think I had a motion on the floor.
Second.
Yes. And I wanted to reflect the zero cash. So support the auto with zero free cash.
All right.
Yeah, and that's just, it's gonna give the Board of Health the time, they gotta do something.
Yep.
They've gotta do something. Like Kevin said, maybe close a day, they've gotta do something.
Yep.
So,
Just the fees or whatnot. So
Yep.
moved, seconded, all in favor? 4-0. Thank you.
Well, so now we can revisit a few other articles.
Mr. Chair, I'm sorry, would it be a problem to move up to 18? Mary Collins has been sitting in the back waiting.
I'd be more than happy to
Oh,
move ahead
yeah.
for, Ms. Collins. So Ms. Collins, Article 18. So just for folks at home, just so we know what we're talking about, it is, I move the town to vote to fund an outreach for senior position for the Council of Aging. Ms. Collins, do you mind coming to the podium? Mr. Mitchell, do you mind just turning on the AC?
no problem.
Thank you.
It's getting hot in here.
Look out the vapors.
I guess.
All right. So could you tell us a little bit about the position real quick?
Yes. This past year, during open enrollment for Medicare, I saw over 100 clients in about a 30-day period. Wow. It was incredibly intense. It took up a great portion of my time, and I had other issues that I needed to attend to in my position as the Director of Elder Affairs. So I decided to ask and request a part-time outreach person to assist with that, as well as to assist me with some of the outreach that I currently do as well. I find that have to be in two places at the same time, which is virtually impossible. My budget, my annual budget is a little over $100,000. The town pays for my salary as well as a 19-hour administrative assistant and a part-time custodial position. So a little over $100,000 is a very small amount in the $32 million budget for the town. The last few years have been very, very difficult with COVID in addressing the issues that our seniors have. Many have now become quite isolated, have needs that need to be identified, but it's very difficult to identify them when the time isn't allotted to get out there and address their needs with them. So that brings me to our board and to request of the town that they fund a 19-hour position for an outreach worker in the senior center.
All right, Mr. Hickey.
So if I could take the lead on this. Mary and I have talked about this quite a lot. And I had told Mary that I would come to this meeting and talk to the board, talk to the finance committee, and then when we get to town meeting, let the people decide. And I guess I would be talking directly, and I know you can't change your vote, Kevin and Aaron, but I would be talking directly to you and to the rest of the board tonight. The article itself, the explanation is wrong. It's not 30% of the population of Hanson is over 55, it's 41. And of that 41%, 33% is 60 and older, 13% is 70 and over, and I can give you the rest of the numbers. But basically what I'm concerned about is 41% of the people in Hanson are either preparing to retire or already retired. So, and that's why in the last couple of years, it has become, I don't want to use the word burden, but more of a workload for Mary and the staff at the senior center, that they actually do need a person down there. In full transparency, I'm a liaison down at the senior center. I'm there at least 3 times a week, so I see what's going on. I see the people come in. Wednesday morning, for example, Mary will have an appointment. I'm in with the men's club, or as my wife calls it now, the boys' club. We meet Wednesday mornings at 10 o'clock, and these guys are great. But Mary will be in with an appointment and have another appointment, so she hasn't even gotten to the floor yet. I think this position is vital because of the situation where the town dynamic since 2010 has changed. We've only picked up 500 people in town in those 10 years from 2010 to 2020. But in that same time, the senior population, or as I like to call it, retirement age people has grown. Where Kevin, I had mentioned to you earlier, where I'm going to tie 3 things into this one thing. The transfer station. When you have seniors, their children have moved out. I know across the street, I'm not going to mention their names, past Selectmen, they use 1 bag a week. The transfer station cannot make money when families, households, are dumping off 1 bag a week. So, you know, that part of it is there. Chris Howard, chairman of the school committee, was here tonight earlier. I wish he was still here, because that's my other part of this. As the town grows older, incomes are going to be fixed, yet the school keeps coming for more money. And we can't raise taxes, we've already done that. But everybody wants money, yet, you know, 4 out of every 10 people in town are on a fixed income. And something's got to give at some point. So And I don't know when it's gonna be, and I don't know what it's gonna be. But for starters, we have an older population that two people are trying to take care of. And I strongly suggest that we find the money somewhere to support this and to support Mary and to support the seniors in this town.
Ms. Kemet?
So, I think, Mary, perhaps people don't understand that you're, in a way, you're social services
We
for
are.
folks that, I mean, you're helping them get benefits, you're helping them connect with legal services, you're helping them if they need home health care, you know, that type of thing, if they need the food pantry. I mean, you are literally a connector for all of these folks to services that they need. And yes, Jim, I'm not surprised that our population of over 55 has increased that dramatically, and in fact, we're going to see it continue to increase as Stonebridge Commons, which is over 55, and the Ritter Project, which is over 55 next to McDonald's, continue. We're gonna see that trend continue, and we're going to see school enrollment decrease. So you're right, the needs of this population are going to increase. I have said it many, many times, and I'll say it until the day I die. Mary is a saint. We are lucky to have her with the work that she does there, and we've gotten a lot of positive feedback over the years about what an unsung hero you really are there. But you're such an unsung hero that you've gone many years when I suspect deeply that you needed help but didn't want to ask for it. So the fact that you're here asking for help says a lot to me. And I 100% would like to find a way to support this, and I would suggest that given the vote we just took on the transfer station, as long as that doesn't boomerang at town meeting, we would have some money to do that. Now, I know that we've got a dollar figure here, it seems to be kind of a little bit broad. The 1350 to 22, 1450 to 22. What are we looking at if we did 19 hours at the midpoint between, you know, the high end and the low end?
Less than 22,000.
Yeah, the range on this would be $14,381 to $21,820.
It's not what was asked for in the budget.
Oh.
What was asked for in the?
It was. It's just about 22,000.
Yeah, it was just 22.
22,824.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So it's just under 23 grand.
So,
At the high end of the salary.
Yeah.
Yes.
at the high end of the salary.
You would need, oh, I'm sorry, Laura.
No, through you,
Yeah.
Mr. Chair. What is your impression of your ability to attract the right and talented person to do that job at the midpoint? I don't want to be on the low end, because you usually get what you
Midpoint
pay
might be
for.
challenging.
Okay,
Might be challenging.
okay. I mean, it is a very competitive job market out
No,
there
it is.
right now.
Yeah.
It is. Mr. Sullivan?
When we started this budget process, we had a deficit of $1.1 million. There were cuts made from several departments, a significant free cash subsidy. And you'll see when we take a look at the general fund budget, none of these extra positions were funded by the finance committee. Not for the town administrator, not for conservation, none of the additional positions. Because the only way to do it is through free cash. And free cash isn't going to be there. So how do we hire these people and then fire them next year when it's gone? It's a policy we haven't done in years because it seesaws with these people. You hire a good person at $22,000 a year using free cash, because right now, that's the only way to do it. So if you cut out one of these articles, that's great, if you think you have free cash, but next year, it's not there. And so you're gonna hire a great person, get them on board, they're just gonna get trained and rolling and moving along, and next year we're gonna have to fire them. We cannot hire or increase hours for anyone at this point. We started out level funding, not even a cost of, that was with a cost of living increase for about 2%, I think, and that's, some of them are non-negotiable, or they have been negotiated by this board through the unions. And so to start out with a $1.1 million deficit, we're still reeling from the school. We are still behind. The override was enough to keep us above water, but we're gonna have to raise taxes again in the next few years. That is a fact. We are the lowest, we pay the lowest taxes around. Everyone prides themselves on that. That is unsustainable. Unsustainable. The only way to add these positions will be to raise taxes. I'm not a fan of higher taxes, no one is, but I can't hire these, I can't in good name, my good conscience, put my name on a budget that brings a very qualified, maybe a very, great candidate who's really involved, who's really passionate about it, and the next year, force people to fire. Say, sorry, we don't have the money. We can either pay the bare minimum, because it becomes the pecking order again. Who's the most recently hired? They're the first ones to go. So I would really urge caution. I think everyone is understanding of the numbers. I think everyone is appreciative of the good work that's being done. And my heart goes out to all of them, because there are plenty of people. We'd love to be able to give Ms. Green, the assistant, the extra assistants. We'd love to give Beth someone up in the town clerk's office. We'd love to have more people to provide better services for this town, but the money's not there. So if you add this position, you're digging a bigger hole next year. And again, I'm not blaming it on the schools. We can point finger wherever it was. Last year was a big hit for us. We had to take a big hit. We passed an override, which none of us wanted to. And what did they do this year? They put full-day kindergarten right on top of our heads. So the costs are not going to go down with the school. The costs throughout the town, we're maintaining salaries. We're trying to increase salaries to keep the people who work for us here and in this building. But we cannot at this point. Everyone has a valid reason. Phil, I'm sure, will make a great claim. Frank does great work up in the conservation office. We can't give him the extra hours. The money's just not there. So I would really caution, we've done some great things. We're taking back free cash, but free cash is a safety net. And I can't tell you that next year we're not going to need $500,000 to fill the budget hole, because we might. So if this year was $250 of free cash, and next year is $500, we're going to have to raise taxes to catch up. That's just a fact. You cannot have taxes this low in the services that we're providing. To be honest, it's amazing that this town, the departments provide the services they do on the budget that we're running. I think we all agree on that. But I would really, really caution you, because the money isn't there. So you can say you're going to fund this position through free cash, but you're going to be firing someone next year.
Ms. Kevin?
I appreciate everything that you're saying. I think we've got a couple of things that are going to increase the revenue. I'm certainly not saying we're not going to need an override at some point in time, and none of us wake up and say we want to pay more taxes. I don't want you to have to pay more taxes, and I don't want to have to pay more taxes. However, that is part of the social contract that we all sign when we're in a town, and we have to provide services to our elder folks, to the schools, and highway, et cetera, et cetera. And I would say that as a town, in the balance, we have given extremely short shrift to our seniors. And I think that Ms. Collins has made a compelling argument. It's $22,000 at most. I do appreciate and hear what you're saying, and I also want to acknowledge that I know you pulled more than a few rabbits out of the hat this year to winnow the deficit, and the gap down. So it doesn't go without acknowledgement. But I do think that for this year, we could simply not do the gym floor for $25,000. And yes, it's free cash and it's one time, but we're going to have hopefully a new meal tax. We've got marijuana revenue coming in from Impressed LLC, which hasn't come online yet, but it will. We've also been told by our building inspector, or at least the Economic Development Committee has, we haven't had it come lately to us, but we should, that once the material costs start to level off and the supply chain issues become what they should be and are straightened out, we're going to start seeing the Ritter place come up online. We're going to start see Stephen Egan up on Main Street come up online, and the old liquor store come up online, and those are all going to be additional revenue. So I hear what you're saying, and it's certainly none of those are going to solve our long-term funding cliff that we've got, that's like a train coming down the track at us for the schools and the, you know, continuing increase in the schools. But this is $22,000, and I, in all good conscience, cannot vote against it.
Ms. Collins?
One more thing, and Mr. Sullivan, I respect that you have a job to do, and I appreciate what you do. I know it's voluntary, so, because we're a department that doesn't have the need for large equipment and, you know, that sort of thing, my thought process is that you give your departments what they need to successfully, the tools that they need to successfully, do what they need to do as a department. And I look on this as the need for my snowplow. I mean, it is not a tool, it's not a inanimate object, it's a person that can provide services. And services are equally as important as the tools that you need to clean off the roads.
So,
Mr. Chair, if I could say one more thing, please.
I think this is, I'm gonna stop right here.
It's personal.
Because, Mr. Hickey, go ahead.
I'll be real quick.
Make it quick,
And
thank you.
Kevin and Aaron, I appreciate all the work you guys have done. I'm not a senior, but Mary spent 40 minutes with me one morning because and everybody knows why I'm down there, why I'm able to volunteer, because I haven't worked. But Mary spent 40 minutes with me trying to get me on the right pages with Social Security. So it's not just seniors that Mary helps, and it's not just, you know, cake and coffee every other Wednesday. There's a lot of stuff down there that people don't see. That's it.
Great, thank you. And just to add on to all the comments, and I'm just going to make it real quick because I haven't been able to say anything on this so far, is Mary is a saint, and we are so lucky to have her. And the times that I've gone up to the senior center and just to see her staffing level run at very bare minimum, and the services that she provides to not only just Hanson's population, but we do it so well that we're attracting people from outside our town to come here because of what Mary is doing and what her staff is doing. And it just, you know, so that's what I'm just gonna say, is they're doing such a great job. And as Ms. Kemet had said earlier, Mary does not come in front of us unless she really needs anything. And if this is it, then I'm more than happy to support it. I understand the repercussions budget-wise, but I think just to get us going through this year and hopefully find a solution for next year, I'm behind it. So with that, I'll entertain a motion.
So moved.
To recommend. Second.
Moved and seconded, all in favor? 4-0.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Mary.
Can I ask, is that for the 22,828, what was it?
22,824.
824.
Yep. We have Mr. Clemens on Article 19, just to kind of get him out. Mr. Clemens, you mind coming to the podium real quick?
Can you hear me okay with the mask? With
Yes,
the
sir.
mic?
Yep.
Okay, good. Just trying to stay safe. Is the floor mine, Mr. Chairman?
Yeah, so let me just read Article 19 real quick. I move the town vote to fund the conservation agent position from part-time to full-time. Currently, the conservation agent is only funded to work 19 hours per week. Unlike the health agent, town planner, building inspector, it's the only department head in town hall that is not full-time. This hinders our abilities to achieve the goals of the Conservation Commission to protect the environmental landscape of the town of Hanson. Mr. Clemens, go ahead.
Okay. Right now, conservation seeks to not only promote our own goals, but the goals of the whole town. Whenever there is a proposal for development, whether it's a private home or a commercial development, they virtually always have to come to us, and we have to provide them with services to evaluate their applications, to make sure we give them the right advice, we apply regulations in the right way. So basically, Conservation is seeking to responsibly promote projects that increase the town's tax base and give various types of infrastructure the support it needs, while at the same time not harming our natural resources like our water supply and the other parts. And we feel like we are the weak link in this building. 19 hours is very difficult. We try to be a resource to the other departments, all the other departments on the upstairs floor, as well as to handle the things that are squarely in our own lap. And formally, the conservation agent was full-time. From some period of time, I think back in the 1990s till up around 2010, when the recession hit then, we took a hit, went to almost like a half-time position. We shared staff, both the agent and administrative support with the planning board. And we limped along, and we've been hopping on one leg ever since. The other departments have recovered from that staffing situation. We have not. We just feel it wouldn't be responsible to not bring this to the attention of the town and to seek some kind of improvement in the resources we can provide from that office. It's a hard time to ask for money. We realize that. I hear everything that Mr. Sullivan is saying, and it's all true. But it's also true that when when the day comes, we have to replace the current agent, and there's no plan to do that soon. We think we're getting very good service from Dr. Skellinger, but someday we are going to have to recruit again. We've been through a couple of very bumpy recruitment cycles the past decade, and I know they're bumpy because to the extent that I've been involved, when there's either no agent or the agent isn't available for whatever, guess who gets called to help out in the office or with the project or to do the site inspections? It's your friendly local unpaid chairman of the Conservation Commission. That's not completely sustainable, but really, I think what's more important than that is we want to do the conservation job right. We want to interpret the regulations properly. We want to understand the newer things like the stormwater regulations. There's a tremendous amount of detail in that. And if you simply count the number of hearings we have, that's not necessarily an accurate measure of the workload. We have projects that have gone on for 16 months because of continued hearings and different aspects of approval or non-approval or appeals and this and that. This town is bouncing back as best it can from recessions of more than a decade ago. Just look at the projects that have just been named, by the board here just now. Every single one of those has taken considerable resources and efforts from the Conservation Commission and its staff, particularly its staff. And we depend on having staff resources to be able to get accurate information and to make good and right and proper decisions as a board that will stand up legally and will support the responsible development of the town to increase its tax base and to keep it the kind of town people continue to want to move to or do business in. So we feel like we're hurting in the resource department. I know it's a different article, but we had asked for a larger amount than we have asked for in the past for the the conservation fund.
Mr. Clements, do you mind if we just stick with Article 19 for right now?
Sure. I was just going to say, we could live with less resources for that other article.
Okay.
Less than we asked for. And I'm simply saying, we know the resources overall are an issue.
Right. So I think with the Conservation Commission one, I think, hearing FinCom, it wouldn't be sustainable just because it would be a one-time influx of cash rather than a source that would be revolving. Is that?
Yes, absolutely. Same one. Or I will just remind you, you have to approach this in a worst-case scenario. Because if you bring all of these to town meeting, and let's say they don't approve the reduction of free cash in Camp Kawani, and they don't approve the reduction in free cash at the transfer station, and they approve these two jobs, there's not enough free cash. It's a math problem. You have to look at this from a worst-case scenario position. All my previous arguments hold over for this position as well. but it is a math problem at this point. If you approve all these things, you're gonna put up this free cash number of $2 million. And if town meeting approves it, because you're moving it forward, there's not enough free cash to go around, and it's gonna throw us into chaos where we're gonna have to go back to another town meeting and change all these results. So I would really caution you, I've already said my piece about the sustainability, now I'm talking math. There isn't enough free cash to keep. This board has to be the responsible actor in this and remove some of these items. Just physically remove them, pass over them. Because if you present all of these, even the ones where we're removing free cash, we all know it can change on town meeting floor. You really need to take a look at the math, because if we sit down on Monday night and town meeting goes, we can't, at that point it's out of our control, right? It's the will of the people. And we know that sometimes they don't listen to reason. And if the will of the people writes a check for $2 million, I think it null and voids the whole town meeting, because we don't have the cash. We have to do another town meeting, we'd have to have another town meeting to back out of it. Todd and I talked about this. So my argument exists, same argument, but now it's math. Because now we're adding a lot of things, and I get it, they're all worthwhile. It's a math problem. If you allow these all to go forward, while they may seem small, they add up quickly. $22,000 here, $25,000 here. It's gonna add up quickly, and we're already overspent on free cash, right? As the article stood when we came in here, we're overspent on free cash. I would really caution you to go back and look at these and remove some of them, consider them for later, and work with Ms. Green to come back with a number that is under that $1.7 million. Again, because that's gonna zero us out on free cash. So next year, if I don't have free cash, or free cash is diminished and we have an even larger hole in our budget, I can't plug it with free cash, because you're gonna use all our free cash this town meeting cycle.
We understand.
So thank you. With that being said, do we have a?
Well, so it's just through you to, oh, go ahead.
I just had my.
I just lost my train of thought.
My question is just how much would this be?
That was one of my questions, yeah.
How much is your asking? Because on our articles here and on our spreadsheet, we do not have a figure.
Well, I looked at the ranges. Right now, we have an hourly rate for a part-time position, and of course, the number of hours would increase from something like 988 hours per year to about 1,820 hours per year. If you look at the midpoint between what we currently have in the range available to pay an agent and the midpoint of what we would pay if we went to full-time, the same rates, the difference is about 30,000. I realize we'd be adding some benefits too if it was full-time. I'm not blind to that.
It definitely would be.
So I'm just saying, the best I can figure is, I don't know, call it 40,000 on an annualized basis. That's my best estimate based on the numbers I have.
So my next question is, your administrative assistant, is she part-time or is she full-time?
25 hours.
25 hours.
It's not full-time, it's more than the agent has though. And, but we can't keep the office open as many hours as we'd like, no matter which position you're looking at.
Right. Ms. Kemet?
Just two questions. I feel extremely conflicted about this. I am a huge conservation supporter. I think it's an incredibly important part of what makes Hanson as wonderful as it is all of the conservation and open space property, and you only get that when you've got a staff that's working and advocating and doing what they need to do. But I guess I'd ask, we've been going so long without a full-time person, what critical work is not getting done? And then also, of that critical work, is there a reason why we cannot revisit this in October?
I would say the critical work that's not being done is we can't respond to any number of requests in what I would call a timely manner. We have to either keep promising to get back to people, or we have to continue a hearing from one meeting to 2 weeks later or 3 weeks later, whatever it is, because we lack information, we haven't had time to develop it, have the communications with DEP that we need to have, or with contractors who are consulting with us on different things, or with the applicant themselves. The issue also is a lot of actual management of the type of property you described as being desirable. The management is going undone. We try to keep up with the regulatory requirements and the legal applications. If we don't approve something in certain periods of time, a lot of the regulations are, it's deemed automatically approved if we don't take action on it. So we have to defer management. And right now, in the last couple of years, we've seen a tremendous amount of interest in the open spaces that are appreciated, access to parking and trails and properties and things like that. It's the fastest increase I've seen ever, to the point where we have dangerous traffic overflows from our inadequate parking areas or missing parking areas into the public ways and properties of neighbors, things like that. We wish to improve that, the access and the information on it for responsible use. But that's, except for some volunteer time on the part of some of our members, which has been helpful, a lot of that is just simply going undone.
Okay, thank you.
Any questions on
What article, is that 19?
Article 19, yes.
All right, and Mr. Clemens, I'm sorry, I just think the timing is just not right now. I'd like to make a motion to pass over Article 19.
We agree the timing is hard to imagine worse timing, but we just didn't want to not address the topic.
No, I understand, and I respect that.
But I second that motion, but again, Ms. Green, if we could put this in the ever-growing list of things that we're pending for our October town meeting, which proves to be an interesting meeting, that would be wonderful.
Mr. Hickey, you'll have anything?
Moved and seconded.
Okay, moved and seconded. I'm just trying to think of if there was. I'm sorry,
You know what, this was something, because Kevin had said something, I'm sorry to.
Go ahead.
If I don't go with this, I'm gonna lose it.
Yep, go.
Ms. Feardoff, to Mr. Sullivan's point of, we're laying out what our optimal, recommendations would be, but, you know, it's a wild card. We really don't know what people will vote for or not vote for at town meeting or choose to increase. Are we able to reopen the warrant at this point and remove articles? Okay, I thought that's what Kevin was suggesting, and I didn't think we could. Okay, so that's the most we can do is vote to pass over. Yep,
If we
okay.
pass over it through you, Mr. Chair,
Yep.
it doesn't get to the floor for argument.
Well, so there's a possibility that someone could move an article.
Yes, that's what I was, yeah,
Right, okay.
okay.
So, all right, no, I just was trying to think if there was outside the box to kind of support our conservation, because I think conservation's one of those things that is always pushed into the back burner. It's, the old saying goes, a great time to plant a tree was 30 years ago, and we have to start now for 30 years from now. So I wasn't sure, even if we were able to, our conservation agent right now, I guess I had two questions for you. Was, one, have we considered partnering up with another community at some point to see if we get a full-time? Do you think that is sustainable or practical?
Well, we've seen things in the past, like partnering up on building inspectors and animal control officers and other things. And I don't know all the experience that's been had with that. I know under previous town administrators, that was talked about. We talked about partnering up with the town of Plimpton. We talked about some other things. There's things I probably don't even know about that were talked about. None of those things have materialized. And in the conservation area, I think it's because every town has a different sense of where they are, what they're doing, what they need to do, what's going on. It's probably a lot less standardized than, let's say, building codes, whatever. I don't think we have explored it perhaps lately, but it's been explored before, and it never developed legs.
And I guess my one last question, and I know we have a motion, but this is just for discussion purposes. Would you see just an additional 4 hours a week be something something that would be beneficial, or should we just wait until October?
Well, I looked at what would happen if we split the difference between what we have right now and what this original ask is for. If we went to, say, 27 hours a week, which is 8 more instead of 16 more, obviously the numbers come down a lot. Anything above 19 would be helpful, because 19 hours evaporates awfully fast. And when we have meetings at night and, site inspections, things like that, they evaporate even faster. And, and then other people's phones ring when they can't get help in the office here. But anything, short answer, yes, anything above what we have now would be a help.
All right, so just for consideration for October, I think that would be.
Yeah, I think, and I think, keeping in mind, a couple of the articles that we had here were reimbursable, one to the tune of 203, and I think the other for 100, and they were conservation reimbursable.
Right,
or
we
at least
sponsored
related.
those grants.
Yeah, so that, I think the timing for October would be much better.
All right, so.
Okay.
Thank you. So I have a motion moved and seconded, all in favor to pass over. All right, 4-0. Thank you very much, Mr. Clements. Is there any other articles here that you're waiting on us for?
I think 24.
24? Right. Oh, I'm sorry, I was talking to, Mr. Clements.
Oh,
Sorry, Mr. Molisi.
I'll sit back down.
Are you asking if I'm interested in anything else?
Well, I'm just saying, was there anything that we had passed over to come back for further discussion? I don't.
Was there any particular action, planned for the article that expanded the range? It was the wage and personnel bylaw, I think, line, I forget what the line number is.
So, nope, I think we're good, Mr.
Okay,
Clements. Yep.
because what that does is, without spending anything, as Kate says, by changing the bylaw, you don't spend anything.
Yep.
It allows for future improvements in how we staff.
Perfect.
Okay.
Great, thank you.
Thank you.
All right, Mr. Molisi, you said Article
24 about the,
24.
transfer funds and some money to fund the positions to the event coordinator and the facilities manager, Camp Kawani. So, we have 2 line items in the budget currently, and that is our salaries and then our operating expenses. Those budget items are funded at those levels because we are an enterprise fund. So I don't see a need for anybody to fund an event coordinator or a facilities manager from what I understand. So if I'm wrong about that, then I'm not sure. Maybe Mrs. Fedorov can correct me, but.
The two people that would need to answer this
Yeah, I know.
are having this conversation.
They're talking about vacation or lunch or something.
I
So,
don't think they're talking
so Article 24 is to fund the event coordinator and facilities manager position at Camp Kawani. So our budget has the salary line item and the operating expenses line item. We don't have like a particular, within those salaries and the operating expenses, we have like a rec director, caretakers, and then, the administrative assistant. So I don't know, I don't see why the town would need to fund that, because it's already being funded through our
If it's funded
budget.
in the budget.
Okay,
Yeah.
okay,
And it depends, I would have to see the budget, so when Sean calls out, when the moderator calls out the budget line item.
Yeah.
I don't think he goes into
he doesn't,
that detail.
he doesn't, no, it's two items, it's simply,
Yeah, but he calls out the holds.
Recreation doesn't have
Oh, right, your recreation.
yeah, so we don't have that individual line item.
Yeah,
So-
then you're good.
So I guess the next question, I'll make it super short. So within that salary line item that we have at the camp level, should we make another budget item there that says event coordinator or facilities no? Okay. I mean, the reason I ask is because we have the rec director that we're not funding, right?
Yeah.
So, and we have the caretaker and the administrative assistant, so
What we're talking about is the official budget. You may have
Internal budget.
internal
yeah,
budget.
so, okay, so this can be passed over then, we don't need this, because this is already in our budget, so.
Okay, I move to pass over Article 24.
I just saved our 15 minutes of the
Moved and
town
seconded.
meeting, so.
All right, moved and seconded to pass over Article, 24. Okay, 4-0. All right, is there anyone here, just so I can get people in and out, anyone here for an article that was passed over? No? Okay, let me just double check here.
I wanted to, discuss Article 15.
All right, I'm just gonna, Article 15.
Which I think is the next numeric one that we were supposed to.
We have to go to Article 10, strategic plan.
Well, actually, I'm kind of hoping we can talk
Do
about them
that,
in
to
this
do
order.
that. Okay,
Yeah.
I'm fine with that. All right, so you said Article 15, which is the capital improvement and purchases matrix.
Mr. Sullivan.
Mrs. Sullivan.
Is there any other questions you would have of me or my team? Otherwise.
Yeah.
No, I don't think so.
Yep, nope, I think, because it's marijuana down at the end.
I think you could probably draw conclusions to any ones that I haven't answered directly.
Yep.
I would just, again, advise checking, and Ms. Federoff and I were just discussing this, because if we proceed through town meeting, free cash is used as we go down the list. So as soon as we run out of free cash, it's over.
Yep.
It's over. So just.
Right.
May I ask one question?
Ms. Green.
Mr. Chair? So at the Finance Committee last night they had a budget and, under the Council on Aging, the outreach coordinator position, was actually in her budget. So the Finance Committee reduced that budget line by that amount, by the 14,381.
22,000.
Oh, you did, oh, okay, I thought, okay. So at that point, where do we go with that? Where they
Well, we
reduced the
voted to
budget
support
line?
it.
So they have the separate article, so if you move the budget based on Finance Committee's recommendations, I don't know how you plan on doing that this year, then that would be eliminated from the budget, and then you see what shakes out with Article, whatever it was, 20 or.
There's no funding as the article's written right now, though.
Yeah, in the budget, right.
Right, but what I'm saying is, yes, our budget eliminated that.
Yeah, depends
So
which
that
budget
article,
they
I'm not
put
sure
forward.
even makes sense, because the article itself has no funding.
There's no funding source.
No, we gotta make it in the motion, so it's gotta be
That's-
moved to
So
transfer
that's
from
nothing,
free
yeah,
cash,
it has nothing to do with the
22,000.
general fund budget.
Right.
That article will have to have a funding source.
Okay, all right, just wanted
But
to
again-
clarify.
Yeah,
Free cash is the only funding.
if someone from the audience, and then you would have an unbalanced budget, but if someone from the audience moved to amend the budget to include 22,000, whatever it is, then you obviously wanna pass over, so you're gonna have to be a little nimble.
I think so.
Nimble.
Just wanted to, for clarification.
Yes, that's what you was.
Let's just start selling marijuana.
No, no. I don't advocate either way.
I knew I'd get your support.
Still voting no, Frank.
Oh, I'm sure you will.
All right, well, our members for FinCom, thank you very much.
Yes, thank you, guys.
For being
Appreciate
with
it.
us. It's greatly appreciated.
Thank you.
All right, thanks very much for coming. All right, so going back to Article, 15, capital improvement purchases for Whitman Hanson School
Yeah,
District.
the only one that I'm hoping, just because we just funded without any real money, with the dire warning of Mr. Sullivan, is I think we could defer the gym floor refinishing to be taken up at the October town meeting. It's $25,000, and that would help defray the cost of what we're, doing with, Council on Aging. And I think a compelling argument could be made that, aside from that, we've been extremely supportive of the school district and all of their, requests this year. So I think one $25,000 gym floor being deferred till October should not really necessarily put anybody's knickers in a
So is that a
twist.
motion?
That is a
Not
motion.
only will I second that motion, but they won't put the gym floor in until next summer anyway, where school is in session. There's no way they get it done in a week.
Yep, okay.
So I think October would be perfect.
All right, moved and seconded, right, or is that a second? Sorry, mistake.
Yeah.
Okay, moved and seconded, all in favor to defer,
The 25,000, to reduce the capital improvements for the Whitman Hanson Regional School District by the $25,000 for the gym floor refinish.
All right, perfect. All in favor? 4-0. Okay.
We gotta recommend the article itself, too.
Yes.
All right, so motion to recommend the article.
So moved as amended.
So moved as amended. Do I have a second?
Second.
moved and seconded, all in favor, 4-0. All right, now going back up to, Article 10, which is from Board of Selectmen, a strategic plan. Earlier on, we heard how important it is, and I think that there was a lot of discussion on it. Is there anything new on it?
No, I would just add that there is some money that was given to us by the state, for economic development, Ms. Green, through our state representative, Josh Cutler. And it may be that we could look into, and I know you've got a few other things between now and town meeting, but, if you might be able to look into, I think the way that it was provided to us, it had a great deal of latitude about what we could spend it on for economic development. I think a compelling argument could be made that a very important part of a strategic plan would be the economic development and how we're going to fund everything and what we're going to do to grow the town. So,
I will definitely look into that.
okay. But even if we can't, it's 15,000, and it's 15,000 well spent, that's way overdue, and you already heard my soapbox on it, so I'm not gonna go there again.
Mr. Mitchell, you had your hand up?
Yeah, I think as much as, you know, FinCom, as much as Kevin, you know, probably wasn't saying the best that we want to hear, I think he's right, money-wise, and I don't think, you know, in taking these articles and pushing them to October, your free cash is not gonna change that much between now and October.
Well, it is actually, because he said we're due for reimbursements on a couple of articles.
Right,
Yeah.
so I mean, for now, I think we should pass over this article.
Defer to October, is what you're saying, right?
I really think.
Pass over for now, I mean, October, you can't make decisions for October today.
Right, yep.
But I would say that we gotta make tough decisions here, and
Miss,
every little bit, 15, 22, every little bit, it adds up. So I think that we need to, pass over Article 10.
Mr. Hickey?
The only thing that troubles me with this is we do this, plan. How long does it take to implicate it? You know, get it on the books and get it going. We have no money. So if this plan tells us that we need a third person in Lisa's office and tells us we need a full-time conservation agent, it may be money well spent, but we still don't have the money to fill those two positions.
That's all up to us, though. The way that this will work, and I feel comfortable speaking about this, because Lisa and I have had a large number of conversations with the, you know, folks who would likely, be doing this work, is they pull all of the departments together. So let me start off by saying, right now, we've got everybody in their own little swim lane, doing their own thing, well-intentioned. Everybody's well-intentioned. They're volunteers doing the best they can. But we don't have people sharing what they're doing, say, in conservation, with recreation, with historic. There's no cross-pollination happening. Partly because of COVID, and partly because we've just gotten into this habit where we don't share. And this would be pulling each of those groups together and having them say, like, Mr. Clements, what is your long-term desire for conservation? Doesn't mean he's gonna get everything that he wants. Doesn't mean anybody's gonna get everything that they want. And then we take a look at what the future revenue stream is likely to become, and then we prioritize things. Right now, we are shooting from the hip. From town meeting to town meeting, we are shooting from the hip. We have no list of, we don't have a clear vision for, you know, do we want to protect more open space? Do we want to have a 40R overlay district on Main Street? Are these things that are important to the taxpayers and the voters? We don't even know, because we're not even asking people. So this takes all the stakeholders, all the voters, you pull people in, you do surveys, you have people tell you how they'd like, what they'd like us to focus on. The board, of course, would have an important role. You'd have FinCom have a role. All the department heads, would have a role, and then they put together a plan. Whitman has got one, nearly every town around us has got a strategic plan.
I have a quick
Yeah.
clarifying question. Is this different from a master plan for the town?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, the master plan is more, planning, vision. That definitely, like, the master plan, the open space plan, any, like, kind of energy plan, those things will all, the economic study that was done, those will all get pulled in to the strategic plan, but it's like a blueprint, so that if we're sitting here and just like happened tonight, and we're sitting here and we're saying, geez, I don't know, we've got all these competing articles, what are our priorities? We don't have to make this up as we're going along. We can go back and say, well, when we did the strategic plan last year, we said, and everybody in town said that, oh, I'm making this up, but, like, Council on Aging is important, that's a priority to them. So you know what, you guys, we should be voting according to what the priority. To be honest with you, it's most helpful to the Board of Selectmen, because we're getting all kinds of input from everybody on what their vantage point is, what they're planning on doing, from voters on what they see as priorities, and we're able to kind of take that as a blueprint. It doesn't mean that we're not gonna still vote, like, we don't have independence in the way we vote, but it's just a blueprint to kind of help, and it's important for our town administrator to have that vision too, because right now, our town administrators, and we've seen this time and time again, are subject to the whim of the political tide of whoever is in the seat. Sometimes that works out, sometimes it doesn't work out so well. So I don't know if that answers your question,
So, yeah, no, it does. So, I think, my personal thoughts on this is right now, I think that we need to get through the fiscal year and, a town meeting. I think this is something that's appropriate for town meeting, special town meeting in the fall. Right now, I think we just have to get through it, because my biggest fear is with these plans is we get it, we look at it, and then we go, oh, this is great, and we put it back up on the bookshelf, and then we never, reanalyze it.
Okay, if Lisa can verify that the grant that we got from Josh Cutler can be used to fund this, and that is the funding source, does that change your mind?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep. So.
Yeah, and I don't think you're wrong, Laura, I just think it comes down to dollars and cents.
No, I know that, I know, I just feel, I get it, you gotta pick a hill to die on. For me, this is one I am willing to die on, I think it's that critical. And I don't say, like, there's other stuff tonight I've passed over, I'm like, all right, the timing's not right. With this one, the timing actually is kind of critical, because you have to think about the lead time that it takes to develop this. So if we pass it in October, what we wanted to do was have a plan that by next, by next May, basically, that we would have finished, it would have been ready, and it would use to inform the town. If we push it to October, then it's really gonna be like almost 2 years before we do it, but it will be done one way or the other, so.
Okay. Yeah, no, I think if it's not coming from free cash,
All right, so may
wanna
I
draft the
make a
motion?
motion to recommend this contingent upon the funding source being the grant money, and I don't even know how to really word that, Lisa, but the economic development grant money that we received from the state. And if we can't, then I move to pass over. I don't know if I can put all that in one motion, but.
You just did.
I'll second those.
So what are we gonna do, the funding source is gonna change?
from free cash to, grant.
Okay.
Yep.
Yep, I'm fine with that.
All right, so I have a motion made, I have a second by Mr. Hickey, all in favor? Okay.
Thank you, I appreciate it,
4-0.
guys.
All right, running down the line real quick, Article 21, which is, article from a Board of the Selectmen, require all board and committees and commissions to videotape or audio tape their meetings. So we had a pretty good debate there, earlier on. Is there anything new?
No, but I will say I was a bit befuddled, at the vote that the FinCom took, because there is no financial impact.
Well, I think Mr. Sullivan's concern was, I'll get to you in 1 second, at first he had mentioned who's gonna buy all the equipment.
Okay.
So I don't know if that was the influence behind it or not, but I think, we heard his concerns. Mr. Hickey, and I'll be with you in a second.
He didn't change his mind after we said we had all the equipment.
That's true.
Yep, so, but we're not here to vote, based on, FinCom, as Mr. Keeley had said.
Yeah.
It's whatever the board, wishes. Any comments from the board? No? Okay, Mr. Tarvis.
Kurt Tarvis, 491 East Washington Street. Yeah, just kind of want to clarify, there's a lot going on back and forth there. For instance, the most easiest aspect of it is going to be the voice recording, which is where we want to do it. It's real simple. Women Hanson Community Act has already said that they have all that equipment, plenty of voice recorders to go around. All a board member, head of the board has to do is literally hit the red record button, starting at the beginning of the meeting and ending it, and then that's it. So it is that simple. Videoing is a little bit more complicated, but it's just by putting it on a tripod, making sure the battery has power, turning it on, and hitting the same red button to record and ending it. I just want to clarify for some people out there who may think it's rocket science, it's really not in the market.
No, and I appreciate that, Mr. Tarvis, because I don't want to impose any additional burden on volunteers. We know, we're giving hours of our life up every week, and let's just say it's not always appreciated, and sometimes it's condemned. But to add, you know, yeah,
All right.
but, yeah, so.
Yeah, so I think, Mr. Mitchell, how about you make the motion?
All right, I'd
Yeah.
like to make a motion to recommend Article 21.
Second.
Moved and seconded, all in favor? 4-0.
Thank you.
All right. Moving down to Article 27, which is amend marijuana, and I'll read it out just so we're all on the same page. I move the town vote to amend Section 6 of the Hanson zoning bylaws by adding Hawks Ave to the list of eligible locations for marijuana establishments, excluding marijuana retailers as more particularly described in the bylaw changes on file with the town clerk as of the posting hereof.
So, so I had asked to hold this, and it's related to 29 as well. And I get where these are going, which is potentially and God knows we need the revenue, potentially looking at getting revenue from anybody that might want to lease that, but clearly this would allow a marijuana establishment, which does not include retailers, so just to be clear, not a marijuana retailer, not gonna be selling it for retail there. But I guess it kind of brings me full circle, because I feel like, how do we close the loop on this and move forward with this when I have not heard from Mr. Mitchell what, and I don't mean to say it that way, but I haven't heard from the Highway Committee, what is the viability of that? How much is it gonna cost for us to fix up Hawks Avenue? And what's the timeline for that? And is that something as a board that we think we can support, and when would we do it? And then the second part of that is which I know we had discussed several years ago, and how much is it gonna cost to clean up the old site once we move those guys? So from soup to nuts, do we have that price tag? Because I don't feel as though the votes that were taken at town meeting, although some people seem to not think that this is true, the votes that were taken were for us to accept the gift of light control. So we did that, we did the deed. And then to do a engineering study on how much it would cost to make that a highway department. So we accepted the gift, but we've never closed the loop on that second part. And so how do we go on to just, if we know that people have asked us to look at this and voted for it and thought that we were looking at it, and we have been looking at it, we got a little sidewinded because of COVID and a few other things, and costs of materials and blah, blah, blah. So I guess through you to Mr. Mitchell.
Mr. Mitchell?
So those are all great questions, Laura. So I can't answer the question of whether or not Hawks Ave will work for the highway department, but however, me personally, I wouldn't support this until we had a solution for the highway department. And I don't know what that solution is, but I think by taking this, saying, yeah, let's, and not this article, the zoning, the other one, 29,
Yeah.
and designating that for a marijuana facility, you know, I'm fine with, you know, the revenue with the marijuana and stuff, but until we have a solution for our highway department, I'm not comfortable supporting anything to do with that building until, you know, we have a solution for
But
that.
I guess what I'm saying,
Like-
Kenny, is where are we at on whether that is viable or not? Like, where is the highway committee at?
Everything stopped before the override, you know?
So-
Everything stopped, so I can't.
So I guess what Laura's asking is, have our plans drawn up for
Not, the
that stuff?
plans are not entirely done, you know, there's plans that
There's
are
some.
drawn up, but it's probably 80% done. And she's right, we voted, it was $400 and something thousand for the study over there. We've already spent probably $300,000 of that.
So with that plan itself, because I've seen parts of it,
Yep,
and if you just look at the site analysis of it,
yep,
it's a flat piece of land with a couple of space buildings there that could be applicable to several other parts in town, such as McQuon, if we ever decide to tear that down.
Yeah.
It could be applied to, you know, other parcels of property that might work.
yeah.
But Ms. Green had wanted to chime in here as well.
Yes, I don't know if you remember, but our town planner, drafted a very, pretty brilliant, reuse plan that for highway, Bateri Fields, for the McQuon, for library. He presented an entire plan, both at the planning board and the economic development committee. It was very well received. It keeps highway right where they are. It moves the Bateri baseball fields to McQuon. It tears down all McQuon and builds the fields there. He increases the size of the library, the senior center, and a very important point that he brought up was that, two points. Over at Hawks Ave, the introduction of a salt shed over there, brings up a lot of concerns of the delicate environmental landscape of that area. The highway department can stay where they are and utilize the use. And again, please stop by and see Tony with this. He can show you the whole plan. It's really future and forward thinking of how everything works out in steps. The baseball field, the McQuon is torn down first. The baseball fields are all moved over there, and there's 3 great fields with a basketball court and things like that, with a small concession stand in the middle. So that's an entire recreation area. While that's being built, highway continues to operate. When they're ready to move everything, that's when the highway department that whole area is utilized for highway. And Tony has all the buildings, all mapped out on exactly. Now, he's been a civil engineer for 30 years, and he developed developments. So he's done this type of work. And.
So my concern, Lisa, is, and
Yep.
I'm sorry to cut you off, my concern is the people went to town meeting and said, yes, we want to accept this building as a municipal building for the highway department. Then we had another article that the people said, we're gonna spend $500,000 to engineer that. So we're just gonna.
I have to, I'm like 95% of the way there with you. They accepted the building for municipal use. There was
Yes.
no specification that it was for highway. Then we were doing the engineering study to see if it could be for highway.
We're gonna go to town meeting, you just agreed, we accepted it for municipal use.
Right.
So then how can we lease it if it's not for municipal?
Hold on, sorry.
Yeah.
Ms. Green.
So if you look at the deed says general municipal purposes. That's a very broad, those are 3 very broad words, which means there could be a number of different uses. It does not say only municipal use, only municipal purposes. It says general. There's a big difference between only and general, and that's a lot of misinformation that's kind of floating around out there regarding that property. That's a large parcel, very large. What we're looking at is 3.8 acres of that parcel and you can argue that, yes, general municipal use, if we lease the building to a company who's going to renovate the buildings, maintain the buildings, bring in jobs, bring in some type of business. Isn't that general municipal use?
revenue.
They're providing revenue to the town, they're providing jobs. You know, that's a good argument to look at. So that's a very important piece of information.
So I just want to bring it back to the article itself.
Yes.
And this has nothing to do with the building itself, other than zoning. It is, I move the town to vote the amended section 6 of the Hanson zoning bylaws. So we're just talking about zoning bylaws here. We're not talking about the purpose of the building, the motion at town meeting. Article 29, which we still have to
That's
visit,
what I'm talking about.
gets more into the nitty-gritty. So I'm gonna ask the board to, just look at Article 27 as it is printed.
I make a
And-
motion to recommend Article 27.
Okay. I have a motion. Do I have a second?
I'll second it.
I have a move and seconded. All in favor? 3-0, opposed? 3-1. All right, thank you. So now to continue the conversation of what could happen. Article 29, I move the town to vote to authorize the Board of Selectmen to enter into a maximum 20-year lease of a 3.8 portion of town-owned property, including the warehouse-style buildings thereon located at 100 Hawks Avenue. And I'm not going to go read into the rest because it's pretty, I think we all know it's the Hawks Avenue property, correct?
Yes, so through you, Mr. Chair, so this is the piece that, what I'm trying to say is, if we've already had town meeting votes to accept this property and to look at the feasibility of using it for a highway department building, until we put a bow on that exercise and we've finished that exercise, which we haven't, Mr. Mitchell just said himself that it hasn't been done, how can we move forward to lease this?
So, right, well, so this is gonna be my point on this article here. There's a lot of questions on the future of that property, whether we can do this, do that, or what is even out there, who is interested in the property, because right at the moment, we can do a procurement, is this correct, Ms. Green, that we can do a request for proposals?
Yes, we can. Yes, we
So,
can.
right now, we could do a request for proposals to see what is out there. And then this article here, Article 29, I move the town to authorize the Board of Selectmen. So it's not us right now. This would be the Board of Selectmen at the time that Ms. Green has received those proposals to make a decision. And I think that's gonna give the town more, time to realize what is going on with the highway building? Is it even feasible? Is Tony's plan great? Do we even like the idea of what could go down on Hawks Avenue? So I think that this gives the board, the future Board of Selectmen, the ability to do it. So that's my 2 cents on it, and I just hope that the board reads the article and we're not reading into a glass globe of what could happen on that property, because we don't know what could happen. It could be marijuana, it could be,
shoes.
It could be shoes, it could be,
Oh, no, yeah, we'd have to go through a procurement process.
So-
I know I have heard some rumblings that it's a done deal, that there's gonna be a grow facility, and that's not where I'm coming from at all. And I did have the benefit of, sitting through, Mr. Freyas's, presentation to the Economic Development Committee of his plan. I think it's a wonderful plan, but there's a lot of hoops that have to be jumped through and a lot of stakeholders that we would need to have, Ed would have to talk about the elephant in the room. Where's this money coming from to do all of these things?
Right.
Some could be CPC, maybe some grant money, et cetera, et cetera. But I guess, I'm just concerned because we've got Mr. Mitchell, is leaving shortly, and we've never finished this exercise of the highway feasibility study, but we're already $300,000 some odd dollars into a $400,000, we gotta put a bow on this. I don't know how.
well, I think it's like a lot of the committees that exist now. The Board of Selectmen come in, they come out, and it's just like myself stepping into Plymouth County Hospital. I walked into that, we're working on it, and I'm gonna be walking out. And the next person, when the board reorganizes, they're gonna decide who should pick up the torch and continue running.
Okay, so what I think I hear you saying is, these things are not mutually exclusive. We could continue on a parallel path of finishing this study up and figuring out what is the future, or whether we decide to do that, or go with Tony's plan, or plan some other plan, I don't know what that is. I think we all agree highway needs something better.
Absolutely.
I've never heard anybody say otherwise. So this is just allowing us to, if we decided as a board that that door was closed for highway at some point in the future, and hopefully the whole study would have been completed by then, and would have facts to make that decision, we wouldn't just be shooting from the hip. This would allow us to enter into a lease.
Right, this is just authorizing the future Board of Selectmen, or, the Select Board in the future, hopefully, that it authorizes them to make that decision. And I think that this is something that is gonna be beneficial for the town, because it's gonna give the select board to decide that at a later time, rather than get tied up for another 6 months, because if it doesn't get passed in October or now.
No, we can act quickly.
We can act quickly.
Yeah.
So it doesn't mean that this is gonna be decided 3 weeks from now, it just means when the time comes.
And through you, Mr. Chair, to Ms. Fedorov, and I'm sorry, I just completely killed your last name, Kate, but
It's okay.
it's late in the night and I can't even pronounce words right now. But what is the general municipal purposes? What, do you agree with I don't mean to put you on the spot, but do you agree with Ms. Green's analysis of what general municipal purposes means?
I mean, I'd have to think about it a little bit more, but I think of it like this. If you were going to make a complete conveyance, so you decided you didn't need it, it's surplus property, voted as Board of Selectmen, Select Board hopefully, that it's surplus property, town meeting allows you to convey it, it obviously wouldn't be subject to that same restriction. So I think because this is a 20-year lease, that would be okay to allow a non-municipal use. But I'd have to really think about it, but I think she's probably correct.
Okay, all right.
All right, any comments on this side? No? All right, so I am looking for a motion.
So you're looking for a motion to recommend?
Well, yeah, I'm looking for a motion to recommend. No?
I feel like, is there a particular reason why we can't do a little bit more research and wait until, I hate to say it, but till October, when it's all gonna be happening? I would like to see some more closure on that highway study.
Okay. I'm looking for a motion, anyone?
So I'm making a motion to pass over this article at town meeting.
Second.
Yep.
All right, all in favor? All right, all opposed? 3-1. All right, going back to the top, and then this is our last article. General budget, Article 5.
So where are we at now with the few little?
Well, that's exactly what I was going to ask Ms. Green. So, Ms. Green, after all these amendments and everything like that, where are we with Article 5, and where would you recommend us to go?
Well, what I will, I'm going to sit with, town accountant Todd Hassett in the morning, and we will.
Could we defer this to the floor? Our recommendation to the floor?
Yeah, oh, yes, I believe they could, right?
Yeah, you can decide right before a town meeting.
Yes.
I think that might be best, and then that way we can have an educated, opinion on that. So I'll look.
Yes, and may I also add, I'm hoping we get the capital improvement information
That came in, right?
prior to town
Yeah,
meeting?
they sent it in on the 25th.
The matrix.
So,
okay.
So that's
Alright.
gonna go into the informational warrant in article, whatever it was that I added that to.
Okay. All right, so you were looking for a motion to?
Can I ask one question? I'm so sorry. You had held 4, I thought, even though there's a recommendation on there, that's the perimeter.
Oh, yeah, we did, actually, yep. So Article 4, good point, thank you, Kate. So at our past meeting, we had, voted well, that doesn't make any sense, maybe it was a typo, because I have, Article 4 is right here. It says 5-0, but it was a 3-0 placement.
That's because that was the special meeting when we were placing.
Yeah, I think it was pulled from your prior recommendation of the meeting before.
Okay.
But then I didn't know if you wanted to rethink it in light of all
Yeah.
that.
Well, I mean, Lisa, is that eligible for ARPA funds?
I'd have to have a conversation with Tom O'Brien.
All right.
And I'm sorry, through you, Mr. Chair, and I know I'm completely, like, I'm just like brain dead right now, but can we also check with The Rock? Because I specifically remember, you guys might remember when we visited them, they installed cameras for Duxbury on some of their town properties, and I remember them telling me that they could do it for Hanson and they could do it at no charge. So can we check if that's something that they,
Not for town hall.
but for like.
Yeah, they said that if
Yeah.
if the police station goes dark, they would set up cameras and that would
No,
go.
even beyond that, because they have them on like some schools at Duxbury, they've got them on different town property.
I think what I interpreted when I toured the facility was if you have cameras already on if you have cameras already on the property or the premise, they can tie into
Okay,
it.
that makes sense, okay, all right.
Maybe
whatnot,
watch it.
That
and
makes
watch
sense,
it. They,
okay.
I don't think they said that they'll come and install stuff.
Okay, all right.
So, so with that being said, let me just finish up Article 5 real quick. I'm looking for a vote to, defer to the floor.
What is the right vote for us?
Which one is Article 5?
We just
Uh,
not
Article
vote?
5, sorry.
I think you
We just don't vote.
And then when your
Oh,
posted
okay.
meeting, right before town meeting, then you can vote then.
Okay,
Yeah.
perfect, all right, so we don't need a motion, okay. So then Article 4 is the security cameras. It sounds like we need more information and we should wait until town meeting?
For Article 4?
4.
Yeah, Lisa's gonna see if there's another funding source.
Yeah, I mean, I think it gets down to money. I think we should pass over it. I really do.
I'm fine with that.
You know?
I'm fine with it.
Because to get down to the end and run out of money, I
Fine.
think we're gonna be in trouble.
You know what, it's all for me about Mary Collins, she's the priority,
You
so
know?
if we have to forego a few other things.
So
then
I'd like to make a motion to pass over Article 4.
So moved. All right.
Second.
Move-
Mr.
move
Chairman.
Mr. Campbell.
Yes, if I may, just kind of thinking out of the box here, at past town meeting, when we had closed down and mothballed the McQuan, McQuan system has actually a pretty, I wouldn't say it's brand new, it's fairly old, but it does have a fairly decent set of cameras that's on the side of the building. Might be an opportunity to look at decommissioning that in that building and repurposing those cameras, just out of the box thinking.
Great idea.
That's a good thought.
Yeah, very good
Yeah.
idea.
Actually, we can't.
So,
If I may respond, Mr.
Ms.
Chair?
Reed?
If we do that, then we risk having a higher insurance premium on the abandoned building.
Oh, okay.
So right now, our premium is $38,000 for McQuan, but we do have that security system on it, I think, which gives us a very, very small decrease in the premium. If we remove those security cameras and now we have no security at all, it may
Are they being
increase.
monitored though? In order to get a discount, they
let's
move
let's not ask questions.
Yeah.
Although-
There's a motion out there, so.
Yeah, but still a great idea to, not to interrupt, but once the, building gets demolished, like
Take those
Joe said,
cameras.
grab those cameras.
Yeah.
Not just the cameras, honestly, if the building is demolished, I would hope part of what we'd do is figure out what we can cannibalize from the building and repurpose.
All right,
Yeah.
perfect.
Well, we're already working on the generator.
So I have a motion moved and seconded to pass over, Article 4, right, is that your motion?
Yes, sir.
All in favor? 4-0. Thank you. All right, so that is the recommendations for town meeting. It sounds like it's gonna be a fun time. So if you guys are out there watching at this hour, May 2nd, 2022, is our town meeting at 7:30. It's gonna be held at the Hanson Middle School. We are going to take a quick 5-minute, break here. from our second session, second recess tonight. Next thing on the agenda for old business is ratify prior and annual special warrant recommendations. Ms. Green, do you mind just?
All right, so on, if you remember, on the 14th, yourself, Selectman Hickey, and Selectman Kemet Gerald participated in the emergency meeting so that we could revote the warrant articles on the annual and the special town meeting. What that language does is that ratifies the recommendations from the April 12th meeting that were noted here for those prior articles.
All right, bye.
And then the new recommendations for tonight that you made on the new articles will stand. So that's what that's for.
So, yeah, we're on. Sorry. All right, so.
Did that finish answering the question?
I think so. So I'm looking for a motion to ratify the recommendations of the annual town meeting.
So moved.
And, hold on.
So,
Looking for a motion to ratify the recommendations of the annual town meeting and special town meeting articles voted on April 12th, 2022, Board of Selectmen meeting, and insert the recommendations of the informational warrant.
A friendly amendment with the exceptions of those recommendations modified at tonight's meeting.
All right, so.
So moved.
So moved, excellent.
Second.
Moved and seconded, all in favor. 4-0. All right, next thing on the agenda is one-day liquor licenses. I'm looking for a motion.
So moved.
What's that?
I'm sorry, Mr. Chair, did we get number 2 on the old business?
Sign side letter.
Oh, yep, thank you. So we can sign the letter at the end. How about that? Do we have the letter prepared for us to sign?
Yes, everyone has a copy of the letter, and Mr. Chairman, you have the one with the little pink tab.
Okay.
What this is a side letter for the librarians with the negotiated terms of their salaries for the librarians that have degrees, and upper level degrees, the master degrees. So that side letter there, the Administrative Professionals Union wishes to have this side letter incorporated into the main contract. So if you could all vote to ratify that side letter and sign it, then I can.
You're looking for a motion to vote?
Yes.
Okay.
So moved, but I'm wondering if we can read into the record just a bit about it.
So whereas the American Federation of State and County Municipal Employees, AFL-CIO, State Council 93, Local 1700, Administrative Professionals Union, known as the Union, and the Town of Hanson Town, collectively, the parties are parties to collective bargaining agreement. Whereas 3 positions, reference librarian, youth services librarian, and youth services associate were added to the union during the successor negotiations, and whereas certain clarifications were required to be made to absorb said positions into the union, including classifications, and now therefore the parties agreed to the following. Article 1, Section A, shall be amended to include reference librarian, youth service librarian, and youth service associate to the recognition clause. Appendix A, grades and steps shall be amended to the youth services associate to grade 3. Appendix A, grade and steps shall be amended to add youth services librarian of reference librarian to grade 4. And Appendix A, grade and steps shall be amended to add assistant librarian director to grade 5. The salary schedule shall be amended to add grade 4 and 5 as follows, as printed in this agreement. All right?
Okay, so moved, seconded, and I don't know.
Moved, seconded. All right, all in favor? 4-0. Thank you, Mr. Hickey. All right, I'm looking for a motion to approve one-day liquor licenses as printed on the agenda.
So moved.
Second.
Moved and seconded, all in favor? 4-0. Appointments, appoint Jillian Tully as the administrative assistant to the building department.
So moved.
Second.
Moved and seconded, all in favor? 4-0. Congratulations, Jillian.
Yes.
Well deserved. Approve open session open session minutes for March 22nd, 2022.
So moved.
Second.
And everyone was here?
Can you double check me, please? I can't find it.
Nope, everyone was here. So, all in favor? Or moved and seconded, right?
Second.
Okay, moved and seconded, all in favor, 4-0. And then, kind of going back to, town meeting, okay, so we will not go back to town meeting.
Do we still have to approve that article? Or are we gonna wait and do it?
Which one?
On Monday, the, budget.
Yeah, that's gonna be voted on.
We'll do it Monday.
Yeah, 4 and 5 will be.
When we get the final
Okay.
numbers.
Yep.
Thank you.
All right, with that being said, Ms. Federoff, if you wanna stay for the town administrator's report?
I don't.
Okay.
I don't. I'm sure it's gonna be fascinating.
Well, Kate, thank you very much. I know you've had a long day,
Yes.
and it's now
Thanks, Kate.
almost 20 of 10, so thank you very much.
Drive slow.
Good night, Kate.
Hopefully the kids will be asleep.
Yes, hopefully. That would be good.
Wow.
Ms. Green, town administrator's report.
Yes. Hold on just one moment. My report seems to have disappeared in the abyss of papers here, so I'm just pulling it up. Okay, so we've had another very busy couple of weeks. One thing I would like to really let the board know is, if you remember, we received a community compact IT grant back in 2019. I'm sorry, 2020. It's taken a little over almost 2 years to complete that. It was for upgrading permits, online permitting for all the departments. Basically, that project kind of went stale a little bit as our former town planner left, but then we brought on the new, and then an IT director. So the project took off and is in the process of being done. We were awarded $84,000 for this project. The project actually ended up costing us about $64,000. Community Compact reached out to me and asked me if there were any other expenses that I could think of that we could use towards this. So I did ask them if we would be able to purchase new computers to replace the older computers that are gonna have the software, because the new software would cause the older computers to run slower. After a little bit of delay, I asked Josh Cutler to help us get a response. And the good news is we can use the $16,000 to purchase up to 8 new laptops, computers, for the departments that are gonna be having the permitize on it. And what that's going to do is that's going to allow us as well to take the computers in those offices and repurpose them for other departments that have even older computers. So a lot of our departments will be getting 8 new laptops for town hall, for the departments getting the permitized, and then those computers will be repurposed to other departments that could use new computers. So that was great news. The new computers will come with updated Microsoft Word program, Adobe Reader, which will allow us to revise and modify PDFs, where before we couldn't do that. Any scan we do comes in PDF. You cannot change it. So these new programs are really gonna help us come into the future. So that's was wonderful news. Annual and special town meeting warrants were completed and posted by April 15th, which met the deadline. And I want to recognize Jill Tully, Lucia Silvera, our town clerk, assistant town clerk, for all the help that they have given our office through this whole process in preparing. It's a tremendous amount of work to prepare for town meeting, and everything included, and I could not have done it without all of their service, their help. So Beth Sloan, Jean Kelly, Jill Tully, Lucia Severa, I'm having the same problem, Laura, Lucia, thank you all for all of your help, and our IT director as well. I'd also like to recognize our town hall custodian and maintenance technician, Charlie Baker. He has been going above and beyond getting the badges for all of the committees to have access to the building. He has also, he comes up with ways of fixing things and repairing things that save the town so much money, that he really needs to be recognized. He's going above and beyond every single day for this town. And we really have an asset in him. Also like to recognize our senior volunteers, Maddie and Julie, who come into our office, and have helped us out with major projects, which include clearing out, just years and years and years of old papers, from the old file cabinets up in the office, so that we now have a room for the third desk. The office looks much more welcoming when it comes in, and we couldn't have done it without their help. So the senior volunteers has definitely been crucial to our office with some of these projects. And last Thursday, our office, we received 2 CARES Act checks. Josh Cutler came to us, as well as Plymouth County Commissioner Sandra Wright, and State Representative DaCosta as well, who I believe is going to be taking over Precinct 1 when we go to that. So they came and they presented us with the 2 checks. Now, these were the 2 checks that we worked really hard last minute when we found out, like 2 days before the deadline, that we had this money left over. So they presented us with 1 check of $245,000, which mainly was for the Google, not laptops, but the Chromebooks for the schools, and $50,000 as well that went for cleaning and other supplies and things, all related to COVID. So that was a lot of work that we really pulled together at last minute, that we saw the checks for. And in my report again, I just wanted to, I did have information on Hawks Ave because there's some misinformation regarding the deed and the language on the deed. So I just wanted to update people on that, regarding that language, and maybe kind of set the record straight of what that deed actually says. And just to remind, on the deed, there's a lot of restrictions to what you can do at that property that kind of gives the inclination that there might be some ground pollution there. And again, that was one of the properties that we were found eligible by the Massachusetts One Stop Growth and Grant Program as eligible for a brownfield study. And that concludes my town administrator report for this evening.
Great, thank you very much. Any questions, or I'm looking for a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
All right. Second. Moved and seconded. Well, it's been a fun 4.5 hours with everyone. Yeah. So thank you very much for everyone for coming out.
You want to vote on that?
Oh, yeah, that'd be great. I'm looking for a motion, looking for a vote. I'm looking for a vote. So, all right, all in favor?
You're a little tired.
Yep. All right. Mr. Hickey?
3-1.
Against?
Okay.
I want to keep going.
3-1.